All right. This is a high discipline environment. We're very disciplined here. We have a lot to cover and not a lot of time. Because I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I might be able to record segments, but am I going to be here live on this big, big day? No. Why? Well, it pertains to matters of the heart. If you're a real American, you'd understand. Tomorrow is going to be a big day. Retiring? Ah, you wish. You want to fill these big fucking size 13 shoes of mine? No shot, buddy. Get out of my boots. High cholesterol. Did I ever tell you guys the time that I misinterpreted some doctor's results and I thought my blood sugar was higher than it actually is? So I went to the store and I bought like a bunch of high fiber stuff. And then later my doctor was like, yeah, we just looked at your results and it turns out your blood sugar, well, actually everything's fine. You're remarkably healthy despite the amount of salt you eat. What kind of hot sauce do you use with Greek yogurt and your dip? Dog, you can use anything, but like sriracha is my favorite. The cheese dick bit is still going, you bastard. When you hit him with that, you know, game dick straight up stinky style, that shit's still going. Okay. Legends never truly die.
New this morning, Seattle police arresting 8 people during an anti-ICE protest, and police said that the protest did start out peacefully, but things eventually took a turn. Fox 13's Nikki Torres live near the Federal Building in downtown Seattle. And Nikki, the scene there last night did get chaotic. What is it looking like this morning?
Well, Maria, it was hundreds of people who were part of the protest last night. This morning, it has since cleared. There are no people out here, but the front of the Federal Building, specifically the glass front, is covered in graffiti. We would zoom in on it, but there is a lot of foul language on there that unfortunately, we cannot show you that on TV. But as far as
like yesterday when we were watching the live Seattle feed or like a recording of it, this woman, this reporter, went up to a protester. The protester held up a cardboard sign that said "fuck ICE," and the cameraman zoomed past it, and this woman walked up to the protester and was like, "Come on, man, come on," and like pushed his sign down, and then she went back up to the camera. It was so fucking funny.
We know Cal Anderson Park, that is where this march first started. That was at 7 o'clock last night. And according to police, the evening was mostly peaceful. They were just monitoring for the most part. That was until things started to turn a little bit once they got to the downtown Seattle area. Now, it was around 10 p.m. that they did notice that significant shift throughout the demonstration. SPD says a group of people set fire to a dumpster on 3rd and Marion, and that is when police officers had to step in. Police then positioned themselves near the group while they waited for Seattle Fire to come put out the flames. And officers say,
Jesus fucking Christ. Just the tone of Seattle protests. You have a bunch of fucking communists taking photos in front of the bonfire. You've got the little drum circle, the Hamas drum circle. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that's insensitive, okay? But you get me.
And officers say multiple people threw not only rocks at them, but concrete chunks and bottles as well. One protester also threw a large firework at police. Officers then issued dispersal orders and moved the crowd out of this area. Bellevue police did offer some assistance throughout last evening. They offered some officers.
Woo, look at that pepper spray hand right there. Woo!
To help with bicycle patrol. Now, again, they did arrest 8 people, and all 8 of those people are facing consequences for obstruction as well as assault. We're live in downtown Seattle this morning. I'm Nikki Torres, Fox 13 News. Back to you in studio.
Thank you, Nikki. And the White House said they plan to send ICE tactical units to 5 more locations. That includes Seattle. The other places are Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia, and Northern Virginia. Leaders in L.A. say these units are to blame for escalating protests that began as peaceful demonstrations. As soon as this week, 700 Marines could join the thousands of National Guard troops already in line.
God damn, look at this fella. Holy shit, this fucking gorilla. Oh my God. He shouldn't be in the streets of Los Angeles. He should be out there, elite thumb. You're playing Cyberpunk and you see a skull above somebody's head. Stop being horny? You're projecting, man. This guy's just huge. Look at him.
Los Angeles, the commander in charge saying that troops can temporarily detain people. They just have to wait for law enforcement to make actual arrests.
They are strictly used for the protection of the federal personnel as they conduct their operations and to protect them, to allow them to do their federal mission.
In New York, police said that they will be cooperating with federal agencies on criminal investigations only and not civil immigration enforcement. Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown is leading 21 states in filing a legal brief against the Trump administration.
I'm sure it'll go far. Oh, speaking of states versus the Trump administration and, you know, ongoing and you fuck my Chungus Hitler life, Hitler country life, fuck my Chungus Hitler country Third Reich, Fourth Reich life. Democratic governors were brought in to testify to the House today. And by that, I mean the House Republicans called in a bunch of Democratic governors to ask them why they personally are okay with Mexicans being in their borders.
Of reckless and dangerous sanctuary policies that jeopardize public safety. 3 sanctuary state governors from Minnesota, New York, and Illinois are here to testify under oath about why they allow criminal illegal aliens to roam free in American communities. Let me be clear. Sanctuary policies do not protect Americans. They protect criminal illegal aliens. That is a fact that the Abraham family knows all too well. With us today is the father of Katie Abraham, Joe, and Katie's stepmother, Michelle.
They brought in the family.
In January of this year, Katie was tragically killed in a car crash near the University of Illinois in Urbana. Urbana, like the state of Illinois, is a sanctuary jurisdiction. Katie's killer was a previously deported criminal illegal alien who was driving drunk. He fled the scene and the jurisdiction and was later apprehended by the U.S. Marshal Service in Texas. Katie was just 20 years old. She had a brother.
So wait, what was the... So what did law enforcement even do? What was the... So they did a hit and run and then they were caught. Wait, what was the... I don't understand what the... Okay, so just because I know there's a lot of Republican misinfo in this and I don't want anyone falling for it, okay? The only thing a sanctuary state/city means is that those police don't cooperate with ICE. If an undocumented immigrant commits a crime, the police will arrest them. And all the normal shit will happen. If any, like all of the people that you see here, that, you know, they committed a crime, they were caught for committing a crime, that's the normal process. The only thing they don't do is cooperate with ICE beforehand or share like immigration data. So the essential argument from the Republican Party is that, you know, well, you should cooperate with ICE because some of these undocumented immigrants could commit offenses in the future, which would be a great argument if it wasn't for the fact that that applies to all humans. You should arrest people for this bullshit reason because in the future, they might need to be arrested for a legitimate reason. Okay. We arrest all men. They're responsible for... Don't answer that. I know what you're going to say. They're responsible for 90% of violent crimes.
Bright future ahead of her that was stolen from her and her very loving family. The illegal alien who took Katie's life should never have been allowed into our country. This was a preventable crime. Unfortunately, there are too many instances where criminal illegal aliens have harmed Americans. Behind me are photos of some of the many criminal illegal aliens that have been captured in Illinois, Minnesota, and New York.
Isn't this another factor of sanctuary cities that undocumented immigrants can be protected when calling out those that do commit crimes? Yes, and you're making an excellent point. In a sanctuary state, if a person is undocumented, but they have evidence of another person committing a crime, they can go to the police and provide that information, even testify, without worrying they'll be deported for it. Whereas in a non-sanctuary state, undocumented immigrants are often discouraged from interacting with the police because they know that even if in a given instance they're on the right side of things, they might be deported for exposing themselves to contact with the police.
These criminals have been convicted of crimes including vehicular homicide of a woman, sexual abuse of children, slashing a victim with a machete, and carjacking, among many other crimes.
That's crazy. What happened afterwards? Oh, they were arrested? Okay.
It's absolutely sickening that sanctuary jurisdictions seek to protect these criminals rather than protect Americans. Instead of putting America first, the Biden...
I can't wait for Reconstruction too, man.
Assaults on...
This is exactly why Biden is responsible for where we are right now, because, like, the rhetoric should have been 20 times as woke. It is objectively incorrect to be anti-sanctuary state / sanctuary city, you know? It is objectively incorrect. There's no good argument for that shit.
ICE officers are already up 400% compared to this time last year. And we have witnessed repeated attempts at obstruction and assaults against federal law enforcement recently captured on video in California. Governor Hochul's sanctuary policies cost taxpayers billions to house, feed, and provide driver's license for illegal aliens while the cost to rent rises and hospitals are overrun. Her defiance of federal law invites crime to plague communities across the state. Governor Pritzker faces lawsuits for obstructing ICE as he turns cities like Chicago into havens for drugs and crime. He's yet another governor providing free care to illegal aliens that many of his own citizens lack. These governors handcuff law enforcement from doing their jobs, harbor predators, and call it compassion. It's not compassion, and it's costing lives, hurting Americans, and draining taxpayer money. Congress must consider whether to defund every single penny of federal dollars going to cities and states that prioritize criminal, illegal aliens over the American people. Americans want to...
Dog, this country is, like, fucking over. Like, we are legitimately at a point where blue state governors have to fight to not get all of the federal money they receive taken away because they, like, support DEI policies or objectively good sanctuary state policies, you know? How the fuck do you deal with this? Unfortunately, there's not actually any mechanism by which a state government can withhold the taxes of its citizens to the federal government. That's not actually a thing, you know? People talk about that, but when you pay the IRS, you pay the IRS directly. It doesn't go through California.
Turn to common sense. The Trump administration and this Republican Congress aims to restore our safety and sovereignty. It's past time for these governors to put America first. I now yield to Ranking Member Lynch for his opening statement.
Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank our witnesses. Governor Walz, good to see you again. Governor Pritzker, Governor Hochul, good to see you again. Ms. Perryman,
just put the opening statements in the bag.
To come. Last week in Los Angeles, peace leader and our rule of law from four sitting members of our time and...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for yielding. In Illinois, we like our pizza deep.
Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your written statement and they will appear in full in the hearing record. Please limit your oral statement to 5 minutes. As a reminder, please press the button on the microphone in front of you so that it's on and the members can hear you. When you begin to speak, the light in front of you will turn green. After 4 minutes, the light will turn yellow. When the red light comes on, your 5 minutes have expired.
By the way, when Democrats take power again, can you explain to me why they don't parade red governors up here to explain why they're retards? I mean that. Like, why aren't you bringing the governors of Oklahoma or West Virginia or wherever else up here to say, hey, murder rates are high, child fucking pregnancy rates are high, you're all retarded, you're all stupid, you're all ugly, you're all fat, you're all gay. Can you explain why you're all gay, please? Like, genuinely, again, a regime of unlimited contempt directed back at them. If they get to shame us for being good people, we should get to shame them for being bad people. If we get to be mocked for being correct, they should be mocked for being wrong.
And we would ask that you please wrap up. I now recognize Governor Walz for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Lynch, and members of the committee. I'm proud to be here today as the governor of the great state of Minnesota. Wherever you go in this country, people tend to want the same basic things: safe neighborhoods, affordable household goods, meaningful work, good schools. That's what my administration has worked to ensure for our people, and that's what we've delivered. Under our leadership, Minnesota has been ranked the 4th best state to live in, the 2nd best state to raise a family in, and the 3rd best state for jobs. And when it comes to serious crime, Minnesota has hit its lowest level in over 3 decades, and we consistently have lower violent crime rates than the U.S. average. Now, we have a broken immigration system in this country. I think everyone in this room agrees with that. But nothing Minnesota has done to serve its own people stands in the way of the federal government managing border security and policies. While you've convened this hearing to explore the issue of so-called sanctuary states...
I don't expect him to pop off here, of course, because he's at a House committee meeting, right? Like, he's not going to call them retards here. He can't. But, like, again, it needs to be reframed, you know? It's not just, well, we don't stand in the way of the federal government's immigration policies. It's what we're doing is objectively right and your failures, you know?
Minnesota's not even a sanctuary state. Minnesota legislature has passed no such bill.
Wait, really? So they just brought him in because he's Tim Walz? I didn't even know that. They just brought his ass in. I didn't even know that. I just assumed that it was. Okay, they just brought him in because he's Tim Walz. Okay, gotcha. Phenomenal. Thank you. Fantastic.
Making Minnesota a sanctuary state, and I have signed no such law. Minnesota cooperates with federal authorities in a number of ways. When there's a convicted felon in our prisons, we ask about their immigration status and share that information with the Department of Homeland Security. We also cooperate with Homeland Security.
Yeah, okay, if that's the case, he should say, like, are you stupid? It's not a sanctuary state. Why am I here?
Security requests when there's a judicial warrant and when due process has been afforded by our Constitution has been served. But enforcing immigration law is not the role of local and state governments. The fact is, Congress has given federal agencies the authority to enforce immigration laws across this country. That includes Minnesota, and I support them doing so. It's the federal government's job to secure the border. That's why when I was in Congress, I visited this.
This is true, by the way. All of these immigration-related misdemeanors and civil offenses, they're all federal. Why on earth would you expect local police to pick up the tab for the federal government's enforcement? You don't like call the FBI in to testify why they haven't been solving state-level crimes. It doesn't make any sense. The argument to begin with that for some reason local police should be tabulating people's immigration status to make the federal government's enforcement easier doesn't make any sense. Why? Why should why should municipal or county or state level police be tracking information for the benefit of the FBI? The FBI is not doing that shit for them.
Southern border and voted for bills that would have increased funding for Border Patrol, made it easier to hire qualified agents, and deployed advanced technologies to the border. Most importantly, I recognize that securing our border does not mean we sacrifice our constitutional values. Unfortunately, the cruel and misguided policies of this current administration fail to live up to those values. Minnesotans are angry with what they've seen happen to their neighbors. They're angry that the federal government has been snatching people up, putting them in prison, and deporting them without a shred of due process. There's been no notice, no meaningful opportunity to object, and according to the president, no way to get out of these overseas prisons once you end up there. And let's be clear, many of these are law-abiding Americans, people who have been granted asylum or promised protected status. In many cases, it seems these people were reported not based on a criminal behavior, but how they looked or what they've said and being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Even U.S. citizens, like a 4-year-old boy with cancer, sent to Mexico, away from his father, away from the medical needs, to a... You
don't sound angry to him? He's not recording a YouTube video. He's he's attending a House committee. There are limits to what he can say. It's a different environment.
He was not born in or had never been to. Americans deserve a sensible, humane, and effective immigration policy that reduces illegal immigration while protecting fundamental rights. Meanwhile, the administration continues to make life worse for hardworking Americans in a lot of other ways.
Misspoke, it's over. Probably the most damaging thing the Trump administration has done to our immigration system is the fact that in sending ICE to arrest people who are just attending their regularly scheduled immigration court hearings, they're discouraging undocumented immigrants from attending those meetings. They're essentially saying, for decades now, the rule has been, you know, there is a process, you can move through it. As long as you do the right things, you can move through it. And what the Trump administration is saying is actually, well, no, you're actually fish in a barrel. Are you stupid? You're an undocumented immigrant. You showed up to the court hearing titled, you know, for undocumented immigrants. Motherfucker, we're going to nab you. We're going to get you. They're discouraging compliance. And as a consequence, we're probably going to see hundreds of thousands of people who were otherwise on the law and order track kind of stepping back. We've got a bunch of ICE raids in Omaha, and businesses have found their workers have mysteriously stopped showing up for work. What a shock.
Trying to slash Medicaid, Social Security, Medicare, making basic household goods more expensive, and telling people they just need to do more with less. The American people deserve better. You all have the power to legislate, to investigate this administration's abuse and overreach, and protect the American people. And I have to say, I'm disappointed. At a crucial inflection point in our nation's history, Congress is choosing to spend its time trying to cast blames on states like Minnesota that have no hand in creating this crisis. While we may disagree on the best way to maintain border security and public safety, I know we should all be able to agree on a few principles.
They might as well stop paying taxes. Yeah, why not? The federal government's going to be insolvent in a few years anyway. No, genuinely, like for decades, for so long, the IRS has said, pay your taxes even if you're undocumented. We will not share that information with ICE. We just want your money. It'll probably help you down the line when you make a case for your citizenship. And now the IRS is sharing info with ICE. So why would you pay your taxes? They're just going to rat you out.
That everyone in America deserves due process, and that we live in a free country where people should not be locked up for exercising their basic constitutional rights. I hope you'll join me in enforcing accountability to those fundamental ideas, and I look forward to your questions. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I now recognize Governor Pritzker for his opening statement.
We don't have time to go through this entire thing. Also, it's like 4 hours long. 4 hours 15. Nice to see you again, Walls. You're not mean enough, but I still like you. I still like you. Let me hear Pritzker, please. 1 minute of Pritzker.
Mr. Chairman, ranking member, members of the committee, good morning, and thank you for inviting me. As governor of the great state of Illinois, I have seen firsthand how states have had to shoulder the consequences of a broken immigration system. I'm proud of how we have responded by promoting public safety, treating people with dignity, supporting our economy, and respecting the rule of law. Safe and compassionate immigration policies, I believe, are vital. In fact, my own family owes everything to this country accepting a young refugee named Nicholas Pritzker to its shores over a century.
You liking this so far? You like it? It's a 5-minute statement in response to a House committee. You know what the payoff is on like time invested to pay out?
Ago. My great-grandfather fled the massacre of Jews in Ukraine and arrived in the United States when he was just 10, without a penny to his name. A social service agency provided him a place to live, a public school taught him English, a public university allowed him to pursue a higher education. My father and grandfather both were naval officers.
No, I'm bored now. Sorry. Short stream today. We got stuff to do. People in Tucson actually stopping ICE raids. How many times are people going to link this one specific video clip? Jesus. I did not say that, Ismila. You are way off. Way off. They misspelled it? Yeah, Comrade Robin Hood typed out Tucson. Okay? I'm moving. Listen, okay? I don't always have time. I move fast and I break things. I see what I see. What's this fucking clip? Everyone wants me to look at the goddamn clip. It got linked like 6 times yesterday. What's the clip? And they got the riot shields up there and everything. Sheesh. Senator Padilla made a disruption in front of Kristi Noem. He was thrown out.
I have questions. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your heads off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty? How they have been targeted?
Arando? No, that's why I said Senator Padilla just crashed. The DHS Secretary Noem's press conference in LA was forcibly removed. Damn. They fucking shoved her out. Wait, why did I say her? Because he's queening, that's why.
Senator Alex Padilla, I have questions for the Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
This is an insane amount of manhandling for a politician, man. Jesus Christ. I know we're a state senator, but still.
The Secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your heads off.
No, he's a U.S. senator? Yeah. Oh, I meant like because they hate California.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty? How they have been.
They wanted to get him out of there quickly. You said state senator? Did I? Holy shit, I'm tired.
Our agents. Ticket. Unfortunately.
I wonder when we could see that in the live feed.
Of California. On behalf of my office and the Department of Justice, I'm here to show our support and our collaboration with the Department of Homeland Security in their mission to protect the American people and to do immigration enforcement operations, specifically at targeted known criminals, which is the primary focus of most of our missions to date. I want to also thank the National.
Dude, she looks like such a fucking freak, man. She's so unnerving to look at.
How they have been doxxed.
Oh, there we go.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles.
Half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty, how they have been targeted, and how their families have been put in jeopardy, and that we're not going to allow that anymore as well. That those individuals who are purposely endangering our ICE agents and our law enforcement officers and their families will be of law enforcement. They've been absolute rock stars in what they've done to protect this community and to protect this city. I want to specifically name those that are under the umbrella within our components, under the Department of Homeland Security. That has been our ICE officers who have been on the front line out there interdicting with many of these dangerous criminals. Also HSI with their investigative skill set and tactical teams have been absolutely imperative to us in helping us make sure we're running operations and really targeting these bad actors. Our our Federal Protective Services and also our Border Patrol agents have come and been partners with us in an incredible way. They bring a skill set that has helped us have...
Can you answer why she was even picked? Loyalty, that's it. It's the only reason any of them were picked. It certainly wasn't competence. Again, like, I still think genuinely one of the saving graces of the administration is the fact that Kash Patel is like a coke fiend podcaster. Like, the guy who runs the FBI has no interest in doing anything other than appearing on podcasts, so...
a whole of government approach under the Department of Homeland Security that has never happened before. The assets that they have and the willingness to do their jobs that this president has allowed them to do has been absolutely incredible. But what you see standing behind me, too, is also other federal partners that have come to the table that are here to bring safety and security to the city of Los Angeles. I want to specifically thank the Army. I want to thank the Marines, the National Guard, our soldiers, our military men and women who have shown up here to help make sure that we have security. Not only do they protect our country around the world, but they're doing it every single mayor for their support and their backup in these operations.
What we've done here is taken a whole government approach for this immigration mission. You know, under the last administration, there was millions upon millions of people that we don't know who came into this country. They were let in, that now have turned violent.
You okay, dude?
Criminals. Also, we have known suspected terrorists and gang members. Since January 20th, we've been making arrests in Los Angeles and all around the country. But specifically, we've focused on gang members, human traffickers, violent drug dealers, and rapists. You know, the Secretary brought it up. You know, the rhetoric of a lot of elected officials and people, what really caused this. We've heard so much. If ICE had a criminal warrant, if ICE had a judicial warrant, cities would cooperate with us. On this past Friday, you saw that. You saw the men and women of ICE and these other DOJ partners executing a criminal warrant on a criminal immigration enforcement case. Yet the city turned against us and we had violent protesters. And that just won't happen because...
I'm sorry, did the city send those protesters? Was that the Los Angeles Police Department tossing rocks at you? What?
Because the men and women of ICE won't be deterred by this. We're going to be out there every day conducting our law enforcement mission. No protesters are going to block our way because the brave men and women of ICE and these DOJ parties...
This is what all of ICE was like even before the second Trump administration, by the way. There was no future for the Democratic Party outside of the removal of ICE. It is the entire administrative branch that is like this. If you fired all of them and replaced them with new people, the only people who would sign up would be people exactly like this. There's no way around it, dude. You will always be the enemy to them. They just hate brown people. That's it. That's not like a convenient simplification of their politics. That is literally the end goal of their politics. I don't want to watch this whole fucking thing. We have way the fuck too much to cover. All right. Prologue's over. Okay. Want to see something funny? The farmer lobbyist got to him. Our great farmers and the people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good, long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. The lobbyist got to him. He had one meeting. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open borders policy are applying for those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the USA. Changes are coming. This one only has 17,000 likes, which is funny. Normally he has way more. You can always tell who we talked to last. This is one of the few remaining actual ideological gulfs in the Trump administration, right? Which is that there are a lot of people who make a lot of money off of keeping things more or less stable, right? More or less the way they are, you know? There are a lot of people with corporatist ties. There are a lot of people who benefit from the stock market, from international trade being left more or less undisrupted. There are people who want things to say basically the same, but like, you know, more MAGA. And then there are the oligarchs and people like Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller, I promise you this, I haven't talked to the guy, but I guarantee you, Stephen Miller does not, in fact, want very good, long-time immigrants from Honduras in America, even if they're working on farms. The idea of keeping a permanent economic and racial underclass of foreign workers on our farms is appealing not to people like Stephen Miller, but to people like Donald Trump, callous businessmen, you know, people who run farms, that kind of thing. They like that. People like Stephen Miller do not. There are a lot of Republicans who do not like messaging like this because it affirms a cynical thought they have long had. So Miller's a Nazi, right? What do Nazis think about illegal immigration? Or in their framework, they're thinking, well, why do Jews bring illegal immigrants in? You know, and some of that's great replacement stuff. Some of that's the Democrats want brown people to vote in their favor stuff. One of the big lines that they use, that they're fond of, is the idea that, well, it's economic interest, you know? Bringing immigrants in, it depreciates wages, which is, by the way, not true, but, you know, it allows businessmen to profit more. So in reality, immigration is just a consequence of the greedy taking advantage of the economic and social consequence of globalization, right? And for that reason, when Trump does stuff like this, they really, really, really don't like it. This is one of the only remaining real ideological rifts. The line basically being, do you hate brown people so much that you are willing to inconvenience wealthy people? Trump prefers the wealthy people. Miller would rather inconvenience everyone if it means getting rid of brown people.
Ventura County has thousands of farms, more than 2,000, maybe as many as 3,000 farms that look just like this. There are tens of thousands of farm workers that work at these farms every single day, and many, if not most of them, are undocumented immigrants. This is around the time that you would see a lot of workers out here. And today, it has been a virtual ghost town of workers.
That's our Jacob Soberoff reporting from farm fields in California's Ventura County last night, noting that many fields were empty amid fears of ICE raids targeting farm workers who tend them. New video showing several of those pursuits, agents chasing, even tackling one worker through the rows of crops as federal vehicles circled this field. In the sky above, NBC News spotting Customs and Border Protection helicopters flying over these farms. Many of these undocumented workers are working.
Were those the Aiden Ross viewers who wanted these jobs? Yeah, I love it when the fat fucking porn addict slobs who consume conservative content online are like, you're taking good American jobs away. Meanwhile, these are people who would legitimately rather off themselves than work something half as difficult as a fucking, like, farm job in rural Nebraska, you know? We've known this for decades. The reason undocumented people settle into these jobs is because American citizens don't want them. They're difficult jobs.
There. And now United Farm Workers, the labor union founded by Cesar Chavez in the 1960s to advocate for farm workers, is sounding the alarm. Joining us now from one of those fields in Ventura County is Roman Pinal. He is the National Vice President of United Farm Workers. Roman, it's great to have you with us to shine some light on this part of the story. Let's start with those videos. We've now...
Gosh, Stephen Miller's Jewish. I don't know if he's literally a Nazi. Got bros on day one of learning how politics works in the 21st century. Dog, the most popular Nazis in the world, like fucking social media attention-wise, are a black rapper and a Mexican homosexual. Listen, okay. Look. I understand it's counterintuitive, but we live in a wacky, wacky world, okay?
All seen online that we just showed our audience. What do you know about the ICE raids targeting field workers this week?
Well, what I know is that these raids need to stop. They need to stop. These kinds of tactics are no way to treat valuable members of our community.
Oh, by the way, I should make it clear. I have no sympathy for the for the farmers out here that exploit desperate, undocumented workers, that subject them to inhumane working conditions, that underpay them under the table, that often threaten them with ICE calls if they don't do their work. I have no care here for those farmers, okay? Trust me. I do think it's funny, though, that, like, Trump immediately, effortlessly took their side over all of the millions of, like, diehard racists in the administration. And you know, voter base, who absolutely do not want Pedro, like, picking their Romaine either.
No one should have to work in fear. And ironically, I'm here with a full crew of workers who are harvesting radishes. These radishes are going to end up at our grocery store shelves this weekend for all the Father's Day barbecues that are going to be happening around this country. And that contribution, that just having a beautiful celebration this weekend is not possible without the men and women, farm workers, who are doing this amazing work for us here in Ventura County today. So these videos are horrifying, and despite the fear, farm workers are doing their part to make sure that this country is fed and that we can proceed with our celebrations like this weekend.
It is such hard work that those workers are doing for all of us. How are your members feeling right now? Are they showing up for work, or are they too scared?
Yeah, just look over my shoulder, right? Like, they know that their job is important. They contribute to this country. They're valuable members of our society. And in the Southwest in particular, all over the country, when tacos are prepared, radish is going to be at the grocery store. That's the proof that our men and women in the fields are doing their part. They're showing up for work and contributing to the important agriculture economy. And they're doing it, unfortunately, right now in an environment of being targeted and being afraid. And that's not right. Farm workers deserve better. President Trump said he would go after criminals. I don't see any criminals here.
This is the inevitable end state of, like, a Trump presidency if it's not being wrangled by people like Miller, which is that the we're only going after dangerous criminals line just gets bounced between industries. It's like the farmers are like, not us, buddy, okay? We're contributing to America, okay? The criminals are elsewhere. And then the fucking hospitality industry is like, no, listen, we have hardworking immigrants, okay? You need to go look at, like, food services. And food services is like, no, buddy, okay? We have hardworking line cooks here who are undocumented, who just deserve to live in America and live a dignified life, okay? You need to look elsewhere. You need to look at, like, garment manufacturing. And then the garment manufacturing industry is like, no. The undocumenteds are elsewhere, my friend. And it's literally just every month Trump announces, like, a new region of the economy is protected from ICE raids. He's really hopping on this too.
What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business?
Well, we're not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a statement today about farmers. Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen and what is happening? They get rid of some of the people because, you go into a farm and you look and people they've been there for 20, 25 years.
That's crazy, dude. No way. Is that how that works? All Trump wants is the performative cruelty, not the efficient deportations. I am not joking when I say this. What Trump wants, or maybe he doesn't know that he wants this, but what he actually wants is to pantomime removing undocumented immigrants, but not actually. Like, if he could do this big show of arresting people, posing by a bunch of people in handcuffs, they get sent to the court, they get drummed out of the country, but then the next day they come back in and go back to working the exact same jobs they were in, that would be ideal. All of the theater of being the tough guy, anti-immigrant, Mr. Crackdown man, or whatever. But in reality, it turns out it's actually quite, like, economically disruptive to be doing all this. He's like, Trump talks about every development like he learned about it yesterday. It turns out there are hardworking people. They've been farming for years. They haven't committed any crimes. We don't want to get rid of these people. It's like every time he's just like, oh, I'm glad somebody had a conversation with you recently. That's great. Who knew healthcare was so hard? Yeah.
Years, and they've worked great, and the owner of the farm loves
Don't
them and
half-ass the
everything
voice.
else,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
You're supposed to throw them out, and you know what happens? They end up hiring the people, the criminals that have come in, the murderers from prisons and everything else. So
okay, I guess that's the rhetoric we're using here. If we deport the illegal immigrants working the farms, then they'll be replaced by MS-13 agents. So in reality, by not deporting the illegal immigrants working on the farms, we're protecting Americans from MS-13 radishes.
we're going to have an order on that pretty soon, I think. We can't do that to our farmers, and leisure too, hotels. We're going to have to use a lot of common sense on that.
Again, and the fact that he's soup-brained enough that he will just name the lobbying groups that talk to him. Leisure too. I know we haven't mentioned it, but leisure too. I also had breakfast with a guy from like the sectoral lobbying group representing the hotel industry. He is very fucking funny.
In California.
Peter?
Thank you, President Trump. I have two. First, on immigration. What made you change your mind about targeting in California farmers and people in the hotel and leisure?
I believe we just saw
We're
this.
not targeting. In fact, if you look today, I put out a...
It's really funny, man. Anyway, I am taking this as a win and a betrayal of the racists that make up a significant portion of both the Republican Party and voter base, you know? Well, racists represent like a overwhelming portion of the voter base and party. I would say people who are ideologically racist, people who prefer racism to other outcomes. There's a big difference between means and end-oriented racism. Big, big, big difference, okay? So we'll chalk this up in the ongoing battle on that one. Segment title: Trump betrays racists, pledges allegiance to immigrant farmers. Send it. All right. So they're actually arresting him, huh?
Hands behind your back.
Well,
hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I put behind my back.
All right, cool. One hand, lay flat, lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here.
Neat.
I did not know. There's no recording allowed out here per FBI.
It's so over. It's so fucking over. We got our first arrested senator. Let's go. That's a senator? Yep, one of the most powerful men in America. Wait, was anything he did illegal? No. Sure, Schumer's writing a very mean tweet right now. Oh, I'm sure. Dude, are they really going to charge him? Are they really going to charge him? If so, like, this is the most... Okay, this is Newsom reacting to Padilla being ousted from the room, not from him being fucking arrested. What are the charges? Well, I guess we wouldn't know the charges. This just happened. Oh, never mind. We know the charge. Democratic rep... Oh, sorry. This is a different person. I'm reading ahead. I'm reading before I think. Or I'm thinking before I read. Or perhaps I'm talking before I read and not thinking at all. Democratic Rep. LaMonica McIver is indicted on charges of forcibly impeding immigration officers in New Jersey detention facility. I think we've talked about this, haven't we? Look, one thing at a time. Padilla. I was just listening to the congressional hearing with the governors, and the Republicans tried to paint this as him charging the podium. Oh, God, obviously, of course. Everything is an insurrection to them. Everything is an insurrection to them. When are Democrats going to learn? When are Democrats going to learn that, like, well-reasoned, good faith arguments don't matter? They will lie to your face about something they just did in front of you, and their supporters will believe it. It's not just Trump, it's all of them, and it's their supporters, too. It's the voters, too. Listen, there's no way out of this without acknowledging that. So all in one weekend, we have Marines deployed, big military crackdown, gigantic protest, military parade in D.C. We have the arrest of a senator, and potentially war with Iran. Statement from Padilla's office. Today, the office of U.S. Senator Alex Padilla, ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Immigration Subcommittee, released the following statement after Padilla was forcibly removed from Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem's press conference while performing congressional oversight in Los Angeles. Padilla is currently in L.A. exercising his duty to perform congressional oversight of the federal government's operations in L.A. and across California. He was in the federal building, listened to a briefing. He was asked to remove... Dude, this is your statement? This is the statement of his office, and it's just a description of what happened? The tyrannical Trump regime removed him quickly. So terrified were they of Noem receiving a single critical question. They have arrested him for the crime of caring about his constituents. What? He's not currently detained, and we are working to get additional information. Not currently detained. So what? They handcuffed him, stood him around for 3 minutes, and then said he's free to go? I wonder if they'll bring charges against him later.
There's no recording allowed out here. I did not know. There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right?
Jesus. Here's a Democratic rep talking about his handcuffing.
It is a disgraceful abuse of power. Senator Padilla was handcuffed and dragged out of for daring to ask a question. This wasn't a threat, it's dissent, and they crushed it with force. They're not keeping us safe, they're trying to silence us. We won't back down.
A little better, still sounds forced. Who's that old senator from the cane from U.S. history? That guy wasn't a hero. I wouldn't go lauding him too much. Schumer's response is as strong as you'd expect.
That sickened my... I mentioned a few minutes ago that I had seen a video that sickened my stomach. A U.S. senator being manhandled, we now know, by federal agents and dragged out of a hearing room. Now there's a second video. It's even worse. He's been thrown to the ground, again, manhandled, brutally taken down, handcuffed. It was disgusting. Anyone who looks at it turns anyone who looks at this, it will turn their stomach to look at this video.
Just the litmus test is, could you imagine a Republican talking like this? Like, not just any Republican, you know, or not one of the prissy ones like Lindsey or whatever, but like, could you imagine one of the members of Trump's administration speaking this way? And if not, why? What's the difference? And the difference in almost every case is that a member of the Trump administration would sound way angrier, way louder, way crazier, and they would be, you know, probably much more incorrect, but we don't need to copy that part.
And see what happened. Reeks of totalitarianism. This is not what democracies do.
This is not.
Senator Padilla.
Jesus Christ, who gestures like that unless they're like acting in a stage play?
Of totalitarianism. This is not what democracies do. Senator Padilla was there, legitimately in that building, to ask questions of what's going on in California, which everybody wants to know answers to. We don't get answers when we ask the administration questions in one way or another. So Senator Padilla was exercising his duty as a senator for his...
Republicans wouldn't care. See, again, look, subtle differences, okay? As a liberal, Schumer's default response here is to process and procedure and responsibility. He had a right to be there. He had a responsibility to be there. The Republicans are violating their procedural obligations by not answering our questions when we go there. Whereas the Republican, they talk about blood, patriotism, pride, and the people. They're populists. So when Republicans won't say shit like the Democrats are not responding to our inquiries, they'll say the Democrats are betraying the people. They'll talk about the Republicans, you know, breaking their oath. They talk about like broader concepts, you know.
Constituents to try and find out what happened. And instead, he gets manhandled, thrown out of the room, thrown out on the ground, and handcuffed. We need a full investigation.
Manhandled also is a weak word. You should say viciously assaulted.
Immediately.
Attacked.
As to what happened and who did what and what's going to be done to see that this doesn't happen again. To Senator Padilla.
Weak language also. What's going to be done to see this doesn't happen again? No, you need to talk about punishment. When you say something like, well, let's make sure this doesn't happen again, what you're talking about essentially is preserving the same power dynamic, but making sure that you're not victimized again. It's a language. It's like asking the teacher to step in and make sure you're not bullied again. You know, it's not about retribution. It's not about taking power back. It's not about punishment. You want those things.
Or other American citizens who are seeking their right to redress.
Gay.
It's despicable. It's disgusting. It is so un-American.
Insincere, heavy-handed moralizing language doesn't land well with people. Also, all of this is being delivered by Schumer. So, you know, massive points dunked for that. Dunked? Docked for that.
So un-American.
Like, Jesus Christ, no one buys this.
We need answers. We need answers immediately.
Very good. What legal options do the Dems have to get out of the situation? Basically none. Democracy's over. Their power now must be social. Oh, Padilla is about to speak live. I don't know how long we're going to be waiting, but I'm actually quite interested in seeing what he has to say.
No.
Might be a little bit, but that's okay. It's going to be dickless if I had to bet. Yeah, probably. I think I'm going to be doing this more often because I feel like with me, what I did with Gavin Newsom last night as well, I feel like a lot of people have a very poor understanding of what I mean when I talk about the Democrats being useless or the Democrats being like ineffective or the Democrats' rhetoric being bad. A lot of people are still looking for legal ways out. Now, let me ask you guys a question, okay? Imagine that it is January 7th, 2021. You are a diehard MAGA guy. You turn to your friend who's knowledgeable on legal issues and you say, is it over? What legal route can Trump take now? What's the answer to that question? No. No, after Jan 6, Trump was fucked. He wasn't getting the presidency. Biden was going to take power. Trump basically forcibly had the powers of the president removed from him after January 6th, before the inauguration of Biden. Any legal answer there would have been no. So what did Trump do to save himself? It was social and cultural power. A lot of it was the weakness of the Democrats. But if Republicans and Trump had just meekly accepted the fact that they had lost because there was no legal recourse, then Trump would be in prison right now or dead. I guarantee you. The real power they had was through control of the media and relentless discipline with messaging. They were able to build a social environment where they could not only delay the outcome of any, legal battle, but outright end those legal battles as soon as he took office again. Now, it's a combination of do-nothing Dems and Americans having goldfish memories. Yeah, but those are tools that people can use, And it's not like the Republicans are infinitely competent, right? There are plenty of ways in which the Republicans could do a better job of consolidating power than they have. The Democrats have options, Okay, but we don't control the media. Neither did the Republicans in 2021. I don't know if you remember what the media looked like, but even Fox was dissing Trump, okay? You understand what I'm talking about? If you think the only way out here is legal, then there is no way out, and we've lost maybe for the rest of our lives. If that's the only avenue we have, then that's that. But if Republicans had only thought the legal route back then, Trump wouldn't be president now. We'll know when they actually start talking, of course. Jan 6 was supposed to be endgame? Yeah. Well, of course, now in retrospect, January 6 was successful in the long run, much in the same way you could say the beer hall putsch was part of a broader successful strategy. Of course, Hitler actually got arrested after the beer hall putsch, you know, like properly put in jail. So, you know, even in this respect, like we're failing even by Weimar standards. This is Mitch McConnell's fault? No, you expect Republicans to be evil. This is the Democrats' fault. The Democrats failed us. We knew the Republicans were evil. We knew they were fascist. We knew a decade ago that all of this was on their agenda, okay? You can't blame the wolf for being hungry when it gets into the pen, all right? You knew that. You were the one who was supposed to put up the fence. What's going on with the internet? Apparently Google's having some kind of server outage or something. Somebody in chat posted about it. Has anyone heard about a California senator being removed from a conference meeting? Man, people will really just show up in chat and like type something before looking at the chat or the video. Like they might not even be watching the video. They might just have popped into chat, making sure it's getting covered. Kind of ominous. Large-scale cyber attacks against government and military cyber infrastructure in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, possibly originating from Iran. Possibly originating from Iran? Any reason for that? Whatever. I support Iran's right to wage cyber warfare against the infidels. Padilla will talk here shortly, apparently. That's the live stream we're watching. Right now. Okay, listen. The live stream we're watching right now is the microphone, but you need to pay attention, is the microphone bundle that he will speak into. This is a live feed provided by the Associated Press. Sometimes I just worry sometimes about you guys. Comrade Robinson, I'm pretty sure those pictures are faked. Is it time?
Is my camera in the way?
I'm gonna get Alan to check in. Okay.
Yeah, she's nice.
Hello.
I don't know
Okay.
if she said.
I think you could, go ahead.
And you're recording, yeah?
No, just, well, yeah, just part of...
You're recording now.
Okay,
Yep.
and you guys could just, you can stop paying attention. No, I won't move, Alan. Is that good?
Okay, yep,
Okay,
you're
thank
center.
you guys.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay. Moments ago, I was at
I just got here at the
You are the Associated Press. Yeah, that's what I thought. You're the Associated Press, and a senator was arrested. Do you have you have your ducks in a line? Okay. All right, we'll wait. Anyway, you all get my point, right? You get the point? DHS response to Padilla incident. Secret Service thought he was an attacker and officers acted appropriately. Yeah, that's bullshit. He's a senator. He announced himself as a senator. That's bullshit. I cannot overstate how much the Republicans would freak out if this happened to them under the Biden administration. If DHS Secretary, oh, fuck, I'm blanking on his name. What was that dipshit's name? Come on, under Biden. Sorry, lost. Mayorkas, thank you, Mayorkas. Already lost to my mind. If he had a fucking senator from the GOP forcibly arrested, forced to the ground like that, this would be a talking point for months. Democrats should be holding candlelight vigils for Padilla, you know? I have no idea how long it's going to take for this statement to be made. Editors, you're just going to have to cut this together when it happens, okay? Go to a different source? Fuck, maybe I shouldn't have made fun of that person who walked in here and said, hey, here's a live stream of this Democrat senator who got arrested. Seems like a big deal. Oh, never mind. The video link they provided was the same one we were already watching. Okay, I take back my conditional praise. Okay, really quickly, I want an update on this.
Sources tell ABC News Israel is considering taking military action against Iran in the coming days. President Trump confirms the U.S. is removing some diplomats and their families from parts of the Middle East because of escalating tensions between Israel and Iran. ABC News senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez has more on that. So, Louis, what's the latest and what's Iran saying?
And three sources familiar with the situation tell ABC News that Israel is considering some kind of military action against Israel in coming days. Now, it's unclear if the is considering some kind of military. Sources familiar with the situation tell ABC News that Israel is considering some kind of military action against Israel.
Okay, just making sure. When I heard the second Israel, I didn't know if he had said Iran, and we were witnessing a manufacturing consent moment where the title of the video is about Israel considering action, but then he's like, yeah, Iran will invade any day now. He just misspoke.
Now, it's unclear if the United States is going to provide any kind of logistical role or intelligence role. The sources familiar with the situation did not have any information that indicated that, but it is possible. Now, what we have heard as a response from Iran is from Iran's president, who essentially said that they will continue to enrich uranium, and that if there are any of their facilities are destroyed, that he vowed essentially to rebuild them. So pretty tough language from the Iranian president there on this possibility. But again, three sources familiar with the situation telling us.
Yeah, it seems like U.S. intelligence officials who might be a little bit less MAGA-brained. The U.S. intelligence community has long distrusted Israel because if you're intelligent, you distrust Israel. No, like the Mossad has not been a good ally to us for a long time. You know, NSA, CIA, they're aware of the fact that Israel has not been a good ally to the United States, and they are the ones who are leaking information suggesting that Israel's looking to attack. Now, the U.S. intelligence community and the U.S. government work together, obviously, but they don't have exactly the same interests, right? Kind of like a deep state dynamic going on there. Though in this case, the real deep state is the military-industrial complex, which definitely had a talk with Trump at Camp Davis. Camp Davis? Oh my God, I've memory hold myself between Camp David and Camp Davis. I can't believe it. It's Camp David. I'm stupid. Yeah, no, I know it's Camp David. I know it's Camp David. In my head, I was thinking It can't be Camp Davis, but if I think that, it must be. I'm gonna fucking Sam Harris, Sam Cedar this. I talked about Camp David 50 times on stream without having this issue, okay? Camp Darren. Camp Dingus. What was I talking about? Anyway, Trump had a meeting there at Camp David 4 days ago, and since then, the administration has shifted wildly on its rhetoric with regards to the ongoing talks with Iran, which Trump had previously been really optimistic about. Trump was talking over the course of 5 meetings between Trump's diplomatic officials and Iranian officials in Oman, where they were discussing the a possible deal that Iran could break with regard to like nuclear enrichment. Trump has been optimistic about this deal for some time, but randomly a few days ago he shifted on it and he was like, actually, I don't think a deal can happen, which is wild because Trump is not the kind of person to say he doesn't think he can secure a deal, you know? So it looks like things have ramped up very, very, very quickly. I don't know. It's pretty grim.
That Israel is considering some kind of military action against Iran in coming days.
And Louis, the U.S. and Iran are set to have more nuclear talks on Sunday. Now Iran's threatening to strike U.S. bases in the Middle East if the talks fall through. How's the Pentagon reacting to that?
Well, Steve Witkoff is scheduled to have a 6th round of negotiations with the Iranians in Oman this Sunday. That's according to a source who's familiar with that information. What we do know is that yesterday, as you mentioned, the United States State Department and the Pentagon essentially authorized or ordered civilian dependents in some of the countries, specifically Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, to leave the region. Now, I think part of what that is based off of the concern that Iran may retaliate.
I don't think Trump is posturing to start conflict with Iran. This is very similar to the lead up to the Ukraine-Russia war. No, what I think is that Israel has been wanting war with Iran for a long time, and what they've been looking for is essentially permission from the United States. And Trump has not given that permission. He's very explicitly condemned Israel and any attacks on Iran over the course of these talks. And as a consequence, it's basically been a no-go, because directly defying Trump, everyone knows that would lead to a crash out, right? But it seems like someone had a talking to with Trump, and now they've secured that permission. So Israel's going to go ahead, enforce the issue. There will be no more negotiations. It will just be war between Iran and Israel. Now, what form that war would take, I don't really know. Like ongoing bombings. We did divert anti-drone and missile weaponry from Ukraine over to Israel recently. So maybe we expect them to hunker down. We want to protect them from counterattacks from Iran. We also have a bunch of bombers stationed at a nearby airbase that's been ramping up its capacity lately. So maybe... all I'm saying is it looks like Mike Waltz might get what he wants, you know? Which is unfortunate.
All right, now to the Middle East, where U.S. officials are taking preemptive measures after Israel warned it is considering a strike on Iran. Multiple sources tell CBS News Israel is fully ready. Iran has warned such an attack could lead to possible retaliation on U.S. bases in neighboring Iraq and other countries. And I want to bring in CBS News intelligence and national security reporter Olivia Gazit.
No way Israel believes they can win by themselves. Well, the stated goal from Israel is to knock out Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. The problems are thus. First of all, Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities are extremely well fortified. We're talking concrete bunkers under hundreds or even thousands of feet of mountainside. You know, we're talking like extremely fortified structures. So it's possible that they might not just be bombable. You know, they might just not be like... bunkers are pretty overpowered. They're high tech, you know? We, the United States, have nuclear bunkers that can survive direct nuclear attacks, you know? We have like bunker buster bombs, but there are limits, you know? Eventually you build a hole, you dig a hole deep enough, you're probably fine. So it's possible that Israel might just not be able to meaningfully destroy these facilities. But of course, the real reason that Israel wants this is because it keeps Netanyahu's war cabinet going, right? Like, Israel can only exist in the context of war. There will never be a peaceful Israeli state, at least not with this population, not with this government. You know, Israel is a war state. It exists and it thrives and it legitimizes itself off of conflict with neighboring, you know, largely Muslim groups. So in that context, they need this war because people are getting pretty tired of the Gaza conflict. Even Zionists are having a difficult time maintaining this line. The hostages line doesn't really work now that like all of them are returned basically or dead. It just doesn't land as well. They need something new.
Who is live at the State Department. Olivia, good to see you. What's the latest intel on this threat?
Good morning, Tom. Well, concerns about the possibility of an Israeli strike have been percolating for a while, with Israeli officials arguing that now is the time to strike Iran's nuclear program in its weakened state with its proxies effectively eroded. Things took a more dramatic turn yesterday as the U.S. began ordering its military and diplomatic personnel stationed in the region to move away out of concerns that an Israeli strike could trigger Iranian retaliation, as you said, on U.S. personnel stationed there. Embassy Baghdad is the biggest military and diplomatic outpost we have, but there's also personnel stationed in Kuwait, in Bahrain, and we're awaiting to see whether there's additional movements ordered there. Typically, the State Department likes these things to be done in private to make sure that people can get to safety, they get where they want to go.
By the way, it's worth keeping in mind that any rhetoric you hear about Iran antagonizing is manufactured consent. Iran has been very consistent for months, for years now, on where it stands, on what it wants, on what it's negotiating for, on what the stakes are. This recent shift in the past few days is 100% from Israel and America. Israel has long wanted to attack Iran. It seems like they have the go-ahead now. Trump suddenly backing off future diplomacy. The shift has been from us, not from Iran.
Before any sort of public announcements are made. There is some thinking that the overt way in which all of this has been happening is...
Admittedly hearsay, but I've heard Israelis have been polled and anti-Palestinian sentiment has gotten incredibly high. Oh, no. Polling has consistently shown time and time again that the Israeli population is Hitlerite, like literally. Like a significant, in some cases, majority of the population want the complete extermination of the Palestinian people. It's not, it's like that. I know we use the term Hitlerite broadly here, which I defend and will continue to do, but legitimately the questions are like, do you think the entire population of the enemy should be exterminated? And like 48% of Israelis say yes or something. It's absolutely insane.
So that the U.S. can send a signal to all interested parties in the region about the stakes of a strike.
The only sane future for Israel is like forced UN occupation for 100 years. And by the way, if you look at like support from the American population, basically like an overwhelming majority of Democrats are now more sympathetic to Palestinians. So when you see Democrats continuing to hem and haw and hand wring and pearl clutch over Israel, they are not doing that shit to appeal to the voters. 100% an MIC consultancy class thing.
And potentially forestall military action, but we are very much in a wait-and-see moment right now.
Yeah, so Olivia, you mentioned that the U.S. is moving non-essential personnel from the embassy in Baghdad. What else are they doing in the event that things escalate?
Well, interestingly, they are maintaining diplomatic channels open with Iran. CBS News is told that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to travel overseas to Oman for a 6th round of nuclear talks with Iranian negotiators this weekend. This is coming as...
I recall Israeli 2 years ago being much more against Netanyahu. Is that still the case? Yeah, it is. They want to replace Netanyahu with someone more murderous. Like, the opposition to Netanyahu is not because they think he's being too brutal against the Palestinians. That has nothing to do with it.
The UN watchdog in Vienna, the IAEA, this morning formally deemed Iran to be non-compliant with its non-proliferation obligations, and that opens the door to snapback UN sanctions that Iran is vociferously protesting, calling the IAEA's move political and biased, and all of it adding to the very complex diplomatic picture that negotiators are entering into, all overshadowed, of course, by this potential specter of military strikes.
Olivia Gazis, following this tense situation from the State Department. Olivia, thank you for that analysis. And for more on this, let's bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinogradov.
No, that's all right, I think. Unless Nah. I'm pretty sure the propaganda here is that Iran actually isn't threatening to attack U.S. bases. No. Iran has said that they would retaliate against U.S. bases if these things fall through, but you can't really blame them for that because Iran is essentially saying, if you attack us, we'll counterattack you. You know, and like, I don't know. I guess that makes sense to me a little bit. I understand the logic there. Yes, this did also happen recently, though I'm not sure what the direct relationship is. Oh, look at that. Update on the left. Trump urges Israel not to strike Iran amid reports that attack could be imminent. U.S. president says we're fairly close to a pretty good agreement. Dude, he's so all over the place. He just said 3 days ago, I don't think an agreement's going to happen. They're asking for things that aren't possible. He literally just... Okay. Don't get too involved. He's deranged. His brain is soup. You can't get too committed. We need a taco emote. Nah, the Schumer made the taco thing cringe. I'm not getting in on this. He literally just said he does not think we're going to get that good deal with Iran. He literally, hold on, let me find the clip. Oh, well, this is from, oh God, there's so much.
Israel so far, I feel keen on.
What do you make of the Ayatollah saying that they have to enrich? They have to be able to.
No, they won't be enriching. If they enrich, then we're going to have to do it the other way. And I don't really want to do it the other way, but we're going to have to.
What's your latest?
There's not going to be enrichment.
Where's the clip?
Prime Minister Netanyahu, you just mentioned Iran. Did you discuss Iran? Did you discuss the Gaza war?
Yeah, we discussed a lot of things, and it went very well, very smooth. We'll see what happens. You know, we're trying to do something with a country we just spoke about, Iran. I think you should negotiate this. You might be better.
This isn't the one either. He explicitly said, okay, whatever. We all know what he's like. My theory is he's waiting for the green light but said things too fast. My theory is that he just repeats what he's told. I don't know, man. It's fucking... This is from 2 hours ago.
Israeli strike on Iran?
Well, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Other than that, I want them to be successful. I want them to be tremendous. We'll help them be successful. We'll trade with them. We'll do whatever is necessary. You know, I stopped a war between India and Pakistan.
I heard that, yeah.
And I stopped it with trade. I don't think I've ever seen a story written about it, but it was pretty cool. They were getting ready. Pakistan was their turn to hit, and eventually they're going to go nuclear. And I stopped it. I called each. I respect each leader greatly. I know
it's
that.
so fucked up that in a woker world, Donald Trump would be like the best Huey Long Long-esque president the United States has ever seen, you know? He would be laughably incompetent, inconsistent, and definitely racist, but he would just drag the country kicking and screaming forward into an era where it is in fact cool and funny to like casually threaten CEOs on TV. You'd say like, they're not good like me. I was the best CEO. I did a very good job. I knew what I was doing. These people, they're jokes. They're jokes. They don't know how to run a company. They shouldn't be running anything. They should be running for their lives, if anything, if you know what I mean. And it would just be that for like 8 years. It would be fantastic.
And I spoke to them and I talked about trade. I said, but you're not trading with us if you're going to go to war, if you're going to start throwing nuclear weapons around. And I said it to both of them, and they were both unbelievable, actually. They understood it exactly. They stopped. I stopped that war with phone calls and trade. And India's here right now negotiating a trade deal, and Pakistan's coming, I think, next week. And I'm very proud of that. Nobody died. Nobody... the nuclear weapons, they each have very severe, very substantial numbers of nuclear weapons.
Is any of this question dedicated to Israel and Iran, or was it all just him bragging?
And I think we should get some credit for that. You know, the whole Republican Party should, because that's their mindset. Please.
Okay, yep, it was just him talking about... Okay, gotcha. Witkoff privately warned top Senate Republicans last week that Iran could unleash a mass casualty response if Israel bombs their nuclear facilities, according to a U.S. official with source direct knowledge. Well, this makes sense because Witkoff is in charge of negotiating a deal with Iran. So, of course, he would argue, like, well, if we don't get the deal, Iran's going to do a lot of damage. Did he really prevent war with India and Pakistan? No. He had nothing to do with it. Padilla? Okay. All right.
While I was waiting for the briefing,
Thanks for your time.
Line aside, guys. Line aside. We're right here already. Line aside, guys.
well, good afternoon, everybody.
Never put your hand on me. Whoa.
Good afternoon, everybody. Senator Alex Padilla. You guys have some questions. I'm going to read a brief statement. I will not be taking questions, but allow me to read my statement. I'm here.
Really quick point. Sorry to pause. Just want to say we need to stop reading shit from our phones. You need to print that out, okay? Huge aura loss to keep peeking down at your phone when you are reading a statement. I understand reading it from a paper or from a document because you can't remember everything immediately, but you should put weakness to begin with. I don't know how a person can have the drive and ambition to become a senator of the United States and not see this moment as your, like, house of cards, like, I am going to grab the podium with both hands, like, grit my teeth and deliver a speech that'll rock the world. Like, I have no idea how you reach this kind of power while having no drive to power. It's remarkable. You were absolutely detained. They handcuffed you. It was a short detainment, but apparently, but they were... Why are you... Just to let everyone know, okay? It wasn't that bad. Jesus fucking Christ. How do you win state... How do you win, like, a statewide election when you talk like this? I understand. Listen, I've heard his voice before, okay? But, like, it's just... It throws the moment into stark contrast. You're not just trying to win among Democrats in the state. You are speaking to the nation. You were speaking to the nation. Everyone just saw a video of you, a U.S. senator, being thrown to the ground and handcuffed by a bunch of thugs. You have... The microphones are on you. Are you picking this apart instead of just playing a video? This is the point! They're going to kill all of us. Don't you get it? The reason we're in this position is because we have a uniquely weak Democratic Party. Like, this is the point. The point is this weakness. These people, this man, will not save us. Their removal might save us. Like, there needs to be an overwhelming condemnation of this weakness. Why do we allow this weakness? Why is it? Listen, politics is much more consequential than sports. But if your team's captain kept picking random fucktards off the street and put them in place, you know, oh, the fucking frontman. Oh, no. This is just a guy I found at a taco stand. And they lose. You would condemn them for the incompetence. Why, for something as inconsequential as a sports game, do we get invested in the competence of our team? But with something as important as politics, we just throw our hands up and go, oh, they're just like that. They're just like that. Like, it's just a coincidence. They're all just like that. Like, this is why we're in this position.
Accountable. And we'll have more to say. We'll have more to say in the coming days. Let me say just briefly in Spanish as well. Soy el senador Alex Padilla. Y estuve aquí porque tuve una...
Let me repeat this, but in Spanish.
Junta para recibir más información de los representantes de la administración. Especialmente porque desde el principio...
Again, these are people with teams, okay? They're senators. Millions and millions and millions of dollars run through them in their office, okay? They're very powerful, well-connected people. It is insane that you will consistently hear more passion and better rhetoric from random protesters, random college students downtown than you will see from these elected officials. Meanwhile, the Republicans never let any incident go to waste. Any excuse they can use to fearmonger or cry or rally people. Fight, fight, fight. They're cringe fucking devotees. They're cult members wearing little gauze earrings in solidarity with Trump for getting nicked by the air around a bullet or something that God directed into a volunteer fireman behind him in all his grace and mercy.
De Donald Trump, y especialmente esta última semana por lo que ha ocurrido aquí en la región de Los Ángeles, hemos pedido más información para entender las pólizas, las estrategias de la administración. Y las respuestas han sido mínimas. Tuve una junta aquí para...
Even his body language, this like... This is the way a substitute teacher speaks when he knows he can't control the room but has to like read off the syllabus that was given to him by the real teacher.
Recibir más información cuando me di cuenta que la secretaria NOM tenía una rueda de prensa en el mismo edificio, en el mismo piso. Calmamente fui a escuchar para ver si podría...
Bless him for being too sensitive. He's not sensitive, he's just weak. They're just weaklings. They're weak people. Like I said when the Ken Martin crying video got leaked, okay? The reason Democrats are uniquely weak is because with Republicans, you have a continuity of thought. There's a synthesis. They are cruel, evil people, and when they're elected, they then get to do cruel, evil things. There's a consistency there. But there's a special kind of weakness it takes to choose a person who runs on compassion, but then governs as a corporate lobbyist. That requires weakness. That's not some Kevin Spacey House of Cards, mind master, I manipulate the public shit. That's just weakness. They're just complicit. A lot of Democratic politicians start out with good intentions, but because they are weak, they are broken effortlessly, and they just turn into corporate stooges. They have no real interest in governing. They're just there to administrate the system and make sure the lobbyists have a direct line to their office. So they're weak people. They have no familiarity whatsoever with the actual theatrics of politics, which the Republicans, by the way, are effortlessly mogging the Democrats on time and time again.
Aprender algo nuevo sobre los esfuerzos.
Bosch sits in a chair while playing with a cat and shopping for skinny jeans and calls a senator who was detained for protesting weak. You might not have gotten banned, but suggesting that I advocate for buying skinny jeans? Oh, buddy, you're so far. You don't even know. You're so far behind. Do you think skinny jeans are what the cool kids are buying these days? You have no idea. You have no idea. You're so far behind.
Las acciones del departamento. A un punto de la rueda de prensa, traté de hacer una pregunta. Muy calmado, todo tranquilo, tuve una pregunta y casi inmediatamente.
Like even in Spanish, there's no passion in Spanish. Who are you speaking to in Spanish? People who don't speak English? People who don't speak English but speak Spanish, who live in California, who are your constituents, are probably terrified right now. Why are you talking to them like this? If I went to the average resident of Los Angeles who did not speak English but spoke Spanish, who needed you to translate the Spanish as you are right now, they would be speaking with 1,000 times as much passion as you.
Los agentes me sacaron, me forzaron de la sala. Primero me hicieron hincar, después completamente al piso. Me pusieron esposas. No me arrestaron. No me detenieron. Pero una gran pregunta es esta. Si esta es la reacción a un senador con una pregunta, imagínense lo que están haciendo con cocineros.
I just want you to think. He recently voted for that cryptocurrency bill that sells out our bank insurance system. Of course he did. He's a California senator, much like New York senators. He's around. He administrates over one of the financial capitals of the country. Of course he did. Just ask yourself, if a Republican senator, okay, imagine for a moment that I don't know, Lindsay, or what if who's a good candidate? Hawley. What if Hawley had gotten arrested during the Biden administration? What if he had gotten dragged to the ground and handcuffed, and then 30 minutes later he had the opportunity to speak to the entire country? What do you think that would have sounded like? What do you think that language would have sounded like? How do you think he would have spoken? It's his job, man. Immediately, the moment he had access to the people around him, which he would have been surrounded by aides, by the way, those aides would have started suggesting lines, taking notes, reference this, don't reference that. What should you go with? You want to go with this? You want to go with that? Carefully curating out a speech. And 20 minutes later, we would have gotten the fucking beer hall putsch shit. We would have gotten some fiery, some incendiary rhetoric. Some stuff that probably would have been borderline like, you know, illegal, threatening. But he wouldn't have gotten in trouble for it.
Jornaleros.
It's so much easier to be a Republican than a Democrat.
Y otros inmigrantes no violentos en la comunidad de Los Ángeles, en otras áreas del estado de California y en el país. No voy a tomar preguntas en este momento, pero sí quise explicar lo que ocurrió y tendremos más que decir en los días que vienen. Just want to once again, for not just the community here in Los Angeles, but throughout the country, because there is a lot of concern, there is a lot of tension, there is a lot of anxiety, and a lot of people are beginning to make plans for what they may or may not do come this Saturday. I encourage everybody to please, peacefully.
Holy shit, I'm actually going to crash out. The first prescriptive statement he makes during his entire speech is, remember guys, just don't do anything that this country deserves to rot and die. I hate the Democrats more than I could ever hate the Republicans. I cannot believe how much they do. It takes actual effort. It takes effort to be this fucking spineless, man. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God.
Protest, just like I was calmly and peacefully listening in that press conference and attempting to ask a question.
Why did you?
No violence, no vandalism. Please continue.
Please be nice. Yeah, they're detaining and handcuffing senators for asking questions. Don't like make a moment of this. Everyone, I want to be as uninspiring as possible. I am working right now. I can't believe it. He is actually, this isn't a joke, his rhetoric is significantly less inflammatory than Schumer's. I can't believe it. It's not an exaggeration. It's true. We literally saw Schumer's rhetoric 30 minutes ago. We literally saw it, and it's true. It's objectively true.
Peacefully protesting, and that's all I will have to say today. Thank you very much.
That's all. The only thing you have to say after video of you being thrown to the ground and handcuffed by these thugs is just go out and protest peacefully. Just please no graffiti, okay? No graffiti. That's all. That's the only thing you have to say. I'm gonna crash the fuck out. I can't believe it, dude. I hate them so much. I'm here for the crash out, but I feel for the dude. You shouldn't feel for him. He's a corporate stooge. He would set your entire family to be killed if it raised the profit margins of one CEO's company by a fraction of a percent. He doesn't care about you. He is personally weak and cowardly, and it allows his office to be used for corporate, power seeking, power capture. But as a consequence of his weakness, he can't even defend the corporatist institutions that he was put in power to protect. He is a worthless human being.
know if you guys can hear me, but
Remarkable to be so weak that in a moment like this with your arrest, the video would have more aura if I didn't include your statement after. That's remarkable. It really is. If I only included the first chunk of this segment and not the second chunk, then it would be like, oh my God, big pivotal moment. But then you get reminded, then you remember like a weight settling in your stomach. You remember what the Democrats are like. A party of losers. Those poor reporters showed up expecting something interesting. Yep. Yep. Sorry, guys. Nope. Dead party. There is one political party in this country.
as you see Senator Padilla just walking away from the press conference right now, and I'm not going to chase.
Basically, Padilla just made it legal for ICE to handcuff anyone for any reason. Padilla just told the entire world that the Republicans can do whatever they want. Oh, is this the consequence to a senator getting arrested or detained, forced to the ground and handcuffed? This is what happens? You get nothing? No consequence at all? Okay, good. We'll do it again next time.
No problem. As long as I could.
Absolutely sickening, man. If those thugs had treated him a little bit more roughly, then maybe he wouldn't have been able to make this press conference, and we could have at least gotten a few days of pretending the Democrats care about something like this. If they arrested him and kept him in a cell, then we could have a couple few, you know, oblivious days where we're like, oh, dude, they just straight up arrested a senator. Maybe now the Democrats will finally do and or say something about it. Of course, then when he gets out or finally speaks to a reporter, he'd be like, listen, guys, I understand we're all very afraid for our democracy right now, but the most important thing is don't spray paint when you're protesting this regime. Historians are going to make a fucking mockery of us. You all know that? It's not your fault, but you're going to be, you know, locked in with the era of people. Like, they're going to be asking, like, dude, why the fuck didn't... Your grandchildren, when you're, you know, when they get to that point in their history classes, if you have grandchildren, if there are history classes in the future, they're going to be like, so you're just okay with this? I hate them far more than the GOP. At least the GOP are playing to win. The other fascist movements have opposition this week. The world is very different now than it was then, but I guarantee you that the Democrats are weaker than the SPD. I guarantee you. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Europe appeased Hitler all the way up to Poland invasion. That's like broader appeasement. I'm talking about political resistance within Germany. I don't care what's going on in Argentina, Merriman. My country is being destroyed. I don't care what's happening in Germany right now, Esmelia. My country is being destroyed. Selfish? Yes. Mate, you say this thinking most of the European public doesn't believe the U.S. admin is a fucking joke. I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't understand what point you think you're refuting. I'm just angry at the Democrats. Steve Bannon is calling for Senator Padilla to be jailed. Good, I agree. Democrat Party acts like domestic terrorists. If you want to stop this, jail him. Good. You know what? He's playing to win. What are you doing? What the fuck is Gitter? I don't know. Pedophile Nazi Twitter? I have no idea. Getter? I have no idea. What does it mean that Bannon thinks that is domestic terrorism? He doesn't think it's domestic terrorism. He's willing to lie to take advantage of a pivotal moment. It's called playing to win. It's called having political operatives who are halfway competent. Now, the cool thing about the Democrats is that right now, for Democrats to take the moral high ground, they wouldn't have to lie. The truth actually, see, that's the pivotal difference. Steve Bannon turns a losing play into potentially strong rhetoric. Democrats turn a winning play into weak rhetoric. Remarkable. If enough Dems get arrested, maybe they would grow a spine. They won't. I promise you they won't. All right, moving along. It might be the case that most normies simply see the headline ICE arrest Dem senator and blame the Trump administration. Doesn't matter. What matters is the follow-up. What matters is months and months and months of coverage of the event. Seeing sound bites from politicians and pundits talking about the injustice, the outrage, the overreach of the Trump administration. It doesn't matter. If you have a moment, but you let it go to waste, it was worthless. There was no point at all. In 5 days, no one will remember this. In fact, by tomorrow, nobody will remember this. It's done. It's already over. Padilla ended it. He went up in front of the podium and he said, essentially, I have nothing to say except don't protest too hard tomorrow. That's it. Who's Padilla? Good question. At least they have not really secured military support. It doesn't matter. Oh, come the fuck on. Like if he said anything mildly more affirmative, it would have made a difference in the Republican response. Who the fuck cares what the Republican response would be? How do you... What? Listen, okay? Genuinely, I need to be clear about this. I despise you because your weakness is infectious. It transmits like a disease, okay? You spread, and you believe, in spite of the evidence to the contrary, you believe that the point of making an issue out of an event is to immediately change the mind of the Republican politicians who will say the same thing no matter what. When in reality, and this is demonstrably proven, this is overwhelmingly proven, this is, can't really argue against it. If you stick to your talking points and you go hard on them over and over and over and over again, people will believe them. Your name is B_thing and you have the she/her tag, so you're a trans woman. Just gonna guess that. 90 to 10 on that, okay? Did you know that support for trans people was higher 10 years ago? And throughout the first Trump administration. You know why? Because Democrats talked about it back then. They don't now. Did it make a difference in terms of what Republicans did? In the immediate sense, no. Republicans on day 2 are going to say what they're going to say regardless of what you say on day 1. But in the long run, yes, actually. Because even though transgender issues were a talking point all throughout the first Trump administration, they were not anywhere near as aggressive as they have been in the second half of Biden's administration and in now this second Trump administration. Why? Well, Democrats stopped talking about it. And without an affirmative position to rally around, the negative position of the Republicans became the only remaining one. It dominated the mainstream discourse. Now you don't have pro-trans, affirmative trans, arguments anymore. You just have the Republican counter arguments, the attacks, against the normative position. And that's a losing position. We're backsliding right now because we are weak. So you're saying if Dems stop talking, Republicans get the green light to do whatever they want? Yes. You can expect a backsliding in basically every issue now that Democrats are too weak to talk about it. Gay marriage, Republicans have backslid. Interracial marriage, I bet you in the next few years you will see a backsliding. Immigration, massive backslide, enormous backslide on all sides of the aisle. More and more Americans every year, since Biden got inaugurated, believe that this country is under threat by immigrants. Fear of a crime, backsliding. Transgender rights, backsliding. All of it. Why? Democrats provide no messaging. They're weak and they're killing you. And when they're driving a knife into your heart and you're saying, well, what do you want them to do? I think they can be better. The Republicans are stupid and incompetent, and they're still so much better on this than Democrats on playing the game. It's infuriating. Apparently, Dems are shouting at Republicans on the floor. Anyone have a C-SPAN clip? Massive shouting fight in the floor. House Democrat is screaming at Mike Mueller to get off the Democratic side of the floor. We got a C-SPAN clip? I think it's this. That's it. They're yelling pretty loud. They're being picked up on the microphone, even though they're like 200 feet away from the microphone. Apparently, a New York Democratic representative is shouting for a Republican to get back to their side of the floor. Oh, by the way, Democrats need to act with overwhelming contempt towards Republicans. Bipartisanship is done. The reason Republicans will occasionally grit their teeth and smile around Democrats is because Republicans know they're going to get what they want anyway. Every Democrat should treat every Republican exactly as badly as they deserve to be treated. They should be looked at with contempt. They should be shouted at. They should be menaced. They shouldn't commit assault. That would be illegal. No one thinks anything violent should have been done to Hitler. Famously, one of the opinions people hold. Also this in the Oversight Committee.
Just shut up. William, shut up. Just shut up.
No, you don't. No, you're not going to tell me to shut up.
Let's. How do you get him in order? You're running for
not like that.
He has been out of order 6 times. He's trying to get on MSNBC. You probably knocked. I get it. Somebody off MSNBC to get on there.
I think he's been arrested as a former Antifa member, right?
Back to order, Ms. Green. Go.
He's a former Antifa member.
Wow, Republicans sure have no qualms with being randomly belligerent and talking over people.
Mr. Chairman,
you got
no
it.
surprise.
Who's a former Antifa member? Me?
Yeah, you.
I asked that these words be taken down. Yeah.
No, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion.
Governor
Ms. Green is recognized.
Governor Hochul, you stated that you're a proud Democrat, proud registered Democrat.
All right, we got to suspend. There's been a parliamentary move.
Look at this.
Can't follow the
Shut
rules.
up. Just shut up.
No.
By the way, the belligerence here is from the guy with the gavel. Like, the Democrats will just let themselves get trodden all over. Democrats will lay down on the ground and let Republicans use their face like a doormat, and then look up expectantly to see if anyone's giving them applause for being so civil with it. Like, look, I took that like a champ, right? Yeah, they show their belly all the time. In a Darwinian sense, there's the fact that the Democrats still exist at all is a fucking miracle.
prepared, but the most clear I will ever be. This is the stuff of dictatorships. It is actually happening. A United States senator was manhandled, shoved to the ground, and cuffed.
Nah, don't worry. Padilla said don't worry about it. He just said, like, don't spray paint or whatever. You know, that would be, if Padilla could go back, listen, he would have one very important message to the Jews in Weimar, Germany in 1932, okay? No matter what happens, do not spray paint. Do not spray paint! He would learn German just for that. He would read it out to them from his phone, like the way he spoke in Spanish, you know? Hold on 1 second. Google translate English to German. Okay. Sprechen Sie keine Farbe. Okay, he would like read that from his phone.
Sprühen Sie keine Farbe.
Sprühen Sie keine Farbe.
Sprühen Sie keine Farbe.
Oh, I like it. Does, yeah, it does it slow on the second click. That's right.
Identified himself. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. That should be enough. That should be enough. A United States senator who is, by the way, protected by the speech and debate clauses of the Constitution of the United States and a specific statute that allows him to oversee immigration facilities. And he says,
okay, but how do we get power back? I'm not joking, and I apologize for being like overbearing with this, but if I could just like if I could just have a word with every Democrat pundit, politician, activist, whatever, and just clockwork orange them a few segments, I genuinely think, and it's not just me, by the way, it's not just me, it's not that I'm special, okay? It's if you just made them act the way I'm describing, I think that 2026 would be a blowout in their favor. I think it would be an insane blowout. They just need to get the word in. All of you, right now, you're being aggro as fuck. You're calling them pedophiles. If they sue you, fine, deal with it in court. You have money. All the people in the House, you all have millions of dollars. Oh, they sue you for libel and slander? Then tank it. Okay, then make a show of it. Go down to the courts and forget. Yeah, he is a pedophile. We know Epstein had 9 numbers to contact him. Have that come out in discovery. Plus, they are pedophiles, lol. Yeah, well, that too. That helps definitely with like the proceedings. Be aggro. Insult them. Be contemptuous towards them. Stop giving a shit about the corporate donors. Genuinely, stop. The Democrats have had enormous success fundraising off of grassroots campaigning. Bernie, Mamdani, it's very, very clear. The reason Bernie didn't win is not because he didn't grassroots raise enough money, but rather because corporate money stood against him in the form of other Democrats. Same with Mamdani, right? How much corporate money runs through Cuomo? He was able to easily meet the quota through grassroots fundraising. You don't need all that corporate money, okay? Corporations are giving you little dustings of money and telling you to beg for more, okay? You don't need that shit. The super PACs will fill up anyway. You promise competence and stability, there are corporatists who will back you just for that. There are super PACs that will defend you just because they fear what Trump tariffs will do, okay?
I'm a senator and I have a question. And to Chris Murphy's point, they said, well, he was being disrespectful. Being disrespectful is legal. Being disrespectful is American. Being disruptive is okay if it's just...
I like this, though.
...just using your words and not your body.
Well...
This is the stuff of dictatorships, and the thing that is making me most terrified is I see 0 Republicans, except for the presiding officer, in this chamber. And I understand. If it's not a member of your own party, you want some context. There is no context that justifies this action. Alex Padilla is not required to be impeccable in every single way in order to exercise his responsibilities as an American and as one of the two.
Needs to be a lot more mean and a little bit less, but we follow the rules the right way. But like altogether, it's preferable.
That represents California in the United States
whiny,
Senate.
Yeah.
This is the stuff of dictatorships.
but better, to be clear. I'm not unpleasable.
One of the officers who throws him to the ground, as he's clearly complying, cuffs him face down on the carpet. And they say, there's no recording in here. It's a damn press conference. It's for recording. They didn't want to hear his speaking. And if the internet got it accurately, the secretary was there and delivering her remarks within earshot the whole time. She has command authority over those agents who are arresting a leader in the legislative branch. This is not some thing on the internet for us to argue about. We all know what we saw.
This should be the minimum dead rhetoric on this. Yeah, no. I like. I don't think I've heard this man speak before. You know, I don't remember every House member, of course. I don't even remember every senator. But no, this is quite nice. Unfortunately, we're limited on time. No, I'll finish the bit. We have to move quickly.
We all know what we saw. I remain hopeful that Leader Thune and other Republicans can walk us back from the brink. But I am not so sure anymore. So as Trump's Department of Homeland Security raises the stakes and continues with a series of provocations to justify increasingly authoritarian actions, we have two obligations. One is to establish that as a legislative branch, we are not going to stand for this. And the other is those people who are peacefully protesting, be very disciplined this weekend.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. Listen, I'm really sorry, but you gotta internalize this. I'm all about the optics game sometimes, but the Republicans will call them insurrectionists literally no matter what. You could have 100,000 people marching, and if one of them so much as makes a face at an officer, that'll be the guy in the front of every YouTube video, every press release. You know, they'll find one guy. There's nothing you can do there. I do think movement discipline is important, but I don't think it should be stressed as a matter of importance because you need to follow the rules. I think it should be stressed as a matter of importance for like effectiveness. There's a kind of like a subtle difference here, but it is key. Look, at least this guy is trying, okay?
Be very peaceful this weekend. If we are going to win, we need to maintain the high ground. And I don't mean...
Okay, well, all right, never mind. Hold on. You're so close, man, but you have one more barrier to overcome, which is that your enemies are ontologically evil. They like evil, and you're not winning this one by trying to appeal to their better sensibilities, okay? Like, the Civil Rights Act was not passed because the sacrifices of the civil rights protesters were successful in moving the hearts of hardcore, diehard segregationists. They were successful because they were able to move the heart of people who were racist, but like, you know, not super committed to the position. The problem is that evil is the policy of the Republican Party. It's not a few people there being evil and the rest of them are going along with it because they're scared. They're all evil. They like the evil. The evil is the point. They're not incidentally evil. They're not being wooed on the evil. They'll just keep being evil. This, when we go high, they go low stuff. No. When they go low, you bring the boot down. You stomp.
We blue, we Democrats.
But when you stomp, you lower your boot to their level. No. It's true. When you bring the boot down, your boot is low like the thing you're stomping on. But there's an experiential difference between the boot and the thing it's stomping on, you know?
I mean, we Americans who
still above
believe
them.
in this system of government, I have never, ever, other than January 6th, been so outraged at the conduct of an administration.
Well, whatever. Hopefully he doesn't see Padilla's speech and go, oh, never mind, I guess it's fine then. Crazy shit, man. We already had so much to talk about today, and that's even without the, even without that. Fuck. You hear about the plane crash? Thank God the federal government strangely, mysteriously dropped their investigation into Boeing.
Because we're also following breaking developments.
Imagine how much worse this would have been if Boeing had the additional pressure weighing on them of that investigation.
Of India, where a Boeing 787 Dreamliner crashed in a residential neighborhood. And the video coming into our monitors, sometimes moments by moments, is jaw-dropping. You see that plane there, and then seconds later, tragedy happens. Just stay with me here on this shot. Right there, the plane disappears from the camera's view, and then those orange flames. We're talking about potential lives lost in the hundreds there. That plane headed to London's Gatwick Airport. It crashed shortly after takeoff. We also have this video to our monitors showing the plane's last seconds.
Got confused, and that's why we see that plane, perhaps. I mean, it looks like it's coming in for a landing when it should have been taking off, and that could be...
One person somehow survived this? Yeah, a British guy, which the fact that it crashed in India is just like a cruel irony, you know?
Plane crash was terrible. I've already told them anything we can do.
Raj
it's a big
policies,
country, strong country. They'll handle it, I'm sure.
Affecting the nation once
more. I
more.
let them know that anything we can do, we'll be over there immediately. But it was a horrific crash. It looks like most are gone. They actually maybe have a couple survivors, which is just heard. But that was a horrible crash. Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea what it might be.
Okay, enough.
Matt Bodner is live at Gatwick Airport. Also with us, Les Abend, a retired Boeing pilot for American Airlines with decades of experience flying. Matt, I'll start with you. What are we now learning about this crash and the news that one person...
They say that the family was unable to make contact with another family member who they believe was traveling with him on that plane. Now, the Hindustan Times is quoting a man by the same name who says he was on the flight, who they have evidence of his ticket, and he's saying, quote, 30 seconds after takeoff, there was a loud noise and then the plane crashed. It all happened so quickly. The newspaper also says that he's being treated now for impact injuries on his chest, eyes, and feet. And, you know, back to the investigation, we're still waiting to hear anything from official authorities, from official investigators on what they think might have happened here. Obviously, we're so early in this story. These types of investigations can take quite some time.
Yeah, well, it'll be a while before we find out what exactly happened. I mean, it's possible it wasn't even like a plane failure. It could have been something else, but yeah. 10th most deadly plane crash in history? Jesus. Close the door. I heard the wind bumping it. I'd be dead inside if I survived out of 242 people. That's the difference between you and me. I would treat it as a providence. It'd be providential for a fella such as myself. But yeah, what's the opposite of survivor's guilt? For all interest, this is most likely the most reliable source of information. Yeah, I'm not a nerd. Survivor's pride. Yeah, guy walks up. British guy walks up to the Hindustan Times reporter and says, yeah, I guess I'm just built different, I guess. And walks off. That would be good for, like, the world. That'd be okay. Yeesh. OSN Technical, aka a Twitter account, is saying the person who survived is named Ramesh Virashkumar. Of course, you can be British and have that name. I don't know if that's the person who was alleged to survive or if this is referring to a different person. British name? Well, there are tons of British people who are from India for reasons that are, you know, pretty obvious historically, but I don't know if it's referring to the same person or not. It's the first crash ever for a 787. Doge cuts past in the house. Okay, one thing at a time. Governor Kehoe activates Missouri National Guard as precautionary measure in response to civil unrest. Jesus Christ. They're in Missouri, they're deploying the National Guard before the protests even fucking begin. Oh my God. Dude, it's really going to be a police state forever now. It really is. It's going to be a police state forever now. The National Guard, we're going to have an infinite Pentagon budget fueling indefinite National Guard occupation of basically every like major city in the country. Jesus Christ. Occupation is expensive? Yeah, sure, but it all gets paid out to contractors. And we got a military parade here in DC. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be fun. You see LAPD tried to murder a guy with a horse again? I believe you. Speaking of the military, I think we talked about this earlier, but when Trump gave his speech at Fort Bragg, apparently it's been confirmed, it's been corroborated, but Trump actually did specifically request no fatties in the crowd behind him. And they were pre-selected for being pro-Trump. Naked man dancing on top of cop car. Are you retarded? Why would you think that I could show that? From military.com. It's a censored news clip. Well, you should say that, but also I don't care. I live in Seattle. I lived in LA. I'm very used to seeing crazy naked people while driving around. I know you're speaking hyperbolically. It's extremely expensive to maintain an actual police state with this level of incompetency of American fascists. They'll do it anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, you're paying out the National Guard for indefinite occupation. They could afford it. They could afford it. I mean, we can't afford anything with these tax cuts, of course. Like, it's deficit spending either way. But what I mean to say is that, like, we're headlonging into financial insolvency either way. So you might as well, if you're a fascist and you don't mind deficit spending, you might as well commit to the premise, right? Oh, I saw that. Newsom trolls Trump using Emperor's voice from Star Wars. Do you think Dems should do more of this kind of thing? No, I think that's soy. I think that's cringe as fuck, personally. I think that's very soy Gen X bullshit. It doesn't really motivate anyone. That's the kind of like mockery that, listen, this is very, very important, okay? People try to derive satisfaction from their engagement with politics. And for a lot of people, especially people who are raised online, that satisfaction can be found in the form of feeling smarter than the people that you're condemning. Certainly with the debate culture, but it goes beyond that. From your uncle who posts on Facebook to make fun of the people he doesn't like, you know. There's the problem with this kind of satisfaction is that people then develop a cathartic response to stuff that doesn't change anything. Because right now, the political needle is not swinging based on arguments that make you feel smart online. Unfortunately, in the era that we're in, the needle is being swung by political engagement where the catharsis that people derive is derived through anger and outrage and action. You know, I think it's important to build within the population this churning ball of resentment, because you'll notice that in Republican circles, they very, very rarely, especially with the popular commentators and politicians, they rarely structure their content in a way that's meant to like make you feel smug and satisfied for having epically owned the enemy. This is why Ben Shapiro is irrelevant now. And I mean that. I'm not just like shoehorning him in. I actually mean that. Like, there is a type of conservative who will go online and go like, yes, the liberals don't understand that. I understand that, idiot. And then they go to sleep and they feel like smart or whatever. But that's a very ineffective group of people, which is why you don't hear about like mass shooters or like crazy pundits or politicians like getting their Ben Shapiro fix these days, you know? Nowadays, the big conservative commentators are all about building outrage, but outrage that is never addressed cathartically, right? So like anti-feminist incel content doesn't begin and end with the women and white knights are stupid, you're smarter than them, haha. It ends with they're fucking taking society away from us, they're ruining it, they're destroying society, what are you going to do about it? Most conservative messaging is like that now, you know? It's about how immigrants are destroying this country. It's about how Muslims are destroying this country. It's about how feminists and leftists and communists or Jews or whatever, like every group they can blame are destroying the country. And the only, like, emotional catharsis there is to these things, it's certainly not going to be had online. These people go out and they destroy the fucking world, right? These people, they join up with the police. They join up with the army. They go to local militia groups. A lot of them turn into stochastic terrorists, domestic shooters. A lot of them channel their energy into political outrage and activism. They go out there and they attend marches and rallies. They act. I think it's important to deter people from kinds of engagement that are meant to elicit like a haha, chuckle, click, move on. Does that make sense? Do you understand what you know what I mean? You have not won because you've epically owned somebody in a debate. You've made yourself feel good because you're smarter than them. But being smarter than a conservative isn't even the bare minimum, you know? I don't have an issue with pop culture references. I think it's more just the tone. National Guardsmen haven't gotten paid yet. I'm sure they'll get paid. It would be too destructive. It would be too counterproductive politically for them to not pay the National Guardsmen. According to more than a dozen guardsmen across 4 units who spoke to military.com, none has received formal activation orders, the critical paperwork that not only authorizes their duty status, but also unlocks pay, TRICARE health benefits, and eligibility for Department of Veterans Affairs services. I'm sure it'll happen eventually. The DoD is splitting it up into multiple 29-day activations so they don't have to pay the 30-day rate. Dude, that's so funny. They're literally treating them like McDonald's workers. Like where you work someone like 23 and a half hours in a week so that they don't trip into the like benefits category. They're getting gig work, dude. That's funny. Hey, listen, okay? It's not like it's a 24/7 gig. Maybe they could pick up some Uber jobs. I hear Waymo's not operating in downtown Los Angeles, so they might have like a market they can capitalize on. You know, just saying they should exercise some personal responsibility. Good for them to resent their superiors, though. If they do. Listen, okay? We might see a lot of, like, hand-wringing media about how the National Guardsmen aren't happy to be down there, but I'm not going to be happy until I start seeing defiance of orders, okay? Troops and Marines deeply troubled by LA deployment. Morale is not great. Several service members told advocacy groups they felt like pawns in a political game and assignment was unnecessary. Sure. Of course. Obviously. We'll see it when it happens. Yeah, we saw it, dementia. Yeah, God forbid soldiers feel like pawns. A guardsman drowned in the Rio Grande trying to save a migrant from drowning because Greg Abbott did not declare an actual emergency and did not have proper activations. The family was entitled to no compensation for the guardsman's death. It's actually pretty fucked what a lot of states are doing. Not to sound callous or whatever, but like limited sympathy, you know? Look, if Greg Abbott fucking despises you as a guardsman, you should act like it, is all I'm saying. You know, like, unfortunately, whatever path there is towards freedom and not dying in gas chambers for all of us, the sort of discomfort of the National Guardsmen, their suffering is kind of like directly on that path. And I would much rather it be because they incur a bunch of ill treatment and then turn against the administration than it be because we have to like fight them, you know? Because like they're the National Guard. I don't wanna do that shit. What do you mean limited sympathy? They were trying to save an immigrant from drowning, not the time. Limited sympathy to the guard for like not getting paid or poor treatment or something. Obviously that one guy who was trying to save a migrant's fucking based. But it's like, there's a limit to what you can expect them to do because they're soldiers, right? There's like very strict, you know, they're held to a very high standard of conduct. But at the same time, man, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy how explicit things have gotten. And I don't really know what the medium ground is for the National Guard. Because it feels like you either obey or it's like treason. You know, everyone gets court-martialed. I have no idea. That rules, Messiah. Morale is also low among the troops. Did you see this yet? Kane 111th. Does this look familiar to you? It's the article that I had on screen about 60 seconds ago. Yeah, are you familiar with this website? It's called vosh.gd/gd. Fuck me. You know, misspeaking, a poor tongue, it really is the enemy of wit. A tiny misspeak, you can't segue at all. You are cooked. I am cooked. Yeah, that's the power of Donald Trump. He enters the weave, but he enters it so gracefully. It's like his mind is navigating the warp. You know, he has protection. Should liberal states build up a militia? What do you mean by that? Like a National Guard? What do you mean by a militia? You mean like a state militia that can't be requisitioned by the president? Like what Texas has? Or Florida? House Dems marching towards Senate Majority Leader's office. Oh shit, they're doing a Jan 6. Oh shit, this is a real insurrection. Hopefully they haven't seen Padilla's speech. Or maybe they have. Maybe that's why they're not spray painting right now. There's so much happening today, man. Yeah, and I can't stream for much longer. Very frustrating, I have to say. We'll see if anything happens. This was from 7 minutes ago. You guys see this? Concurrent with the release of a poll that showed that Zoran is now leading Cuomo, one of Cuomo's super PACs, to which I believe the main donor is DoorDash, by the way, if you want a reminder of how Hitlerite getting your burrito taxis is, where they edited Zoran's face to make him look more, you know, scary and bushy and Muslim. Look at how poorly they did it, too. They, like, edited a line out here. See? Yeah, the terrorism filter. He looks like a terrorist in the second pic. I mean, it's not just the beard. It's also the grain of the photo. Like the edits to the color make it look like some dusty Taliban cave, you know? Look, normally when, like, you're making very deliberate choices when super PACs that have millions of dollars in them edit opposition candidates' photos. Like, none of it's done on accident, you know? Very deliberate here with the darkening and the thickening of the beard and the just literally photoshopping it out with like the fucking finger paint tool or whatever. Yeah, darkening the eyes. I think they would have added a turban if they could have gotten away with it, okay? They would have done like some Hillary Clinton 2008 shit. Well, I mean, Obama did have a turban in that photo, but they would have committed to it, you know. Like when they made that one guy blacker. Bowman? I mean, that's happened a lot of times, but are you referring to Bowman? Anyway, they handed over a great message to Mamdani, dude. Over 100K. You know, Mamdani for the longest time was aggressively campaigning with like sub 100 likes on his posts. He really did like make it, you know? He's been pushing. DoorDash spends $1 million on Cuomo's mayoral bid. This is Politico, so presumably they think that's based. It follows the company's lobbying push last year when it reported spending nearly $500,000 getting an audience with City Hall officials and lawmakers on a bill to let delivery platforms charge restaurants higher fees, among other issues. Great. The 7-figure donation will give the pro-Cuomo group Fix the City more firepower to support the frontrunner ahead of the June 24 Democratic primary, which polls show he's heavily favored to win. Not anymore. This article is from a month ago. A month ago to the day. Now we know who's ahead.
On my way to Good afternoon, New York. I'm on my way to a walkthrough of the debate stage. We just got some very exciting news. You've heard us say for months that by Election Day, we would have knocked 1 million doors. This would be unprecedented. We don't need to wait for Election Day. We can knock 1 million doors by Saturday, the start of early voting. So head to ZahranForNYC.com/events and sign up for a canvas tonight or tomorrow.
You could always watch the debate on YouTube after your canvassing shift tonight. Wink! He's so cool. Also, phenomenal suit that he wore here on the Breakfast Club.
Who wants to tell you to celebrate the crumbs that can't feed your neighbors. And to know that it could be more, that you could be voting for something. That has inspired me. And I think that, you know, as a Muslim democratic socialist, I am used to bad PR and having to explain what all of these things mean. And what I've found, though, is when you actually get into a conversation, a lot of this is common sense. Right? If I believe that every New Yorker should be able to live a dignified life.
Should the shoulder be doing that? Yeah, sure. The suits have shoulder pads.
And that it's city government's job to ensure.
Is that wool he's wearing? Yeah, basically, most suit jackets are going to be wool. That's a tweed.
That New Yorkers will agree with me when I bring up the example of public education.
So free education, free healthcare. What else?
I mean, anything that's necessary, right?
Stabilized rent.
It's like when people... Whatever you need to live in this city, that should not be something you can be priced out of. And we agree with that when it comes to school. We agree.
He's so goddamn good, man.
Every island of the city. And that includes City Island. We're going to talk to residents, small business owners, New Yorkers who felt left behind. Because no matter what island you live on, or contiguous landmass, every New Yorker deserves a mayor that's looking out for them and a city they can afford.
We have up front Clipper Coffee here at City Island. We also own the Bronx Roasting Company. We're the only roasters in the Bronx right now. Yeah, he's the first candidate to come up here to City Island. Really appreciate him.
So what are you going to do for City Island?
God, he's so fucking good. Mamdani is, and I'm not kidding, the only thing giving me hope right now. In a country that is being killed very rapidly and a Democratic Party that is not only unable to stop it, but unwilling, Mamdani is the only thing I have going for me right now. Like, emotionally. The full ticket they ran with Mamdani is even more crazy. Yeah. It's fucking crazy, man. Mamdani rejects NYPD, rejects Israel, rejects capitalism, rejects Jewish rights because he doesn't think Israel should be a Jewish ethno-state. Paid for by Fix the City Incorporated. Top 3 donors: DoorDash, Matthew Holsizer, and John Fish. Great, great, great. Thank you. I thought that was his ad until it said Jewish rights. Yeah, seriously. It really is crazy how the line that Cuomo and all the other deep state agents have settled on with him is literally like, well, you're not allegiant to Israel, a foreign country, so you shouldn't get to be mayor of New York City. That's unironically like what they've settled on. Which, like, Jesus, I don't know how effective that is, man. The average Democrat is more pro-Palestinian than they are pro-Israeli by far.
Lose the election because you do not support Israel enough.
They
new to many New Yorkers who are looking closely at his record, including his stance on Israel.
New York City has the most Jews in the population of the country.
He's still new.
They want to call him anti-Semitic so badly. They want to call him like an Arab anti-Semite so badly, but they don't want to like run the risk of flagging into slander that's bad enough that he could like campaign off of it, you know? They are overplaying their hand. Tonight's mayoral questions leaked. Do you support Israel? Do you support Israel's right to exist? Do you support Israel? Yeah. Do you support Israel in a box? Would you support Israel with a fox? Yeah. I'm not going to be here for the debate. I'm sorry. So you guys are going to have to watch it on your own, okay? I need you guys to watch the debate. I need you guys to phone back and canvass for Mamdani. Guys, if Mamdani doesn't win, I'm going to crash the fuck out. And I mean it. It's not going to be good content either. It's going to be like 2 months of me sitting in a room with the door closed, okay? So you guys need to make him win that primary. When's the debate? Tonight! This might give you hope. It's a TikTok link, so it probably will not. Oh.
Colleagues are going to need some time to gather the facts, but we already have a statement from the Department of Homeland Security that has accused Senator Padilla of being disrespectful, as if that is a rationalization for violence. Watch the video. Even if you believe that he was disrespectful, and given the times, that is certainly in the eye of the beholder, that never justifies what we saw on that video. Throwing anyone, never mind an elected representative of the people, to the ground to be handcuffed. They say that he didn't identify who he was, and yet watch the video. He clearly states, "I am Senator Alex Padilla." They're going to spin this, but I'm begging my Republican colleagues, don't let them do it.
Oh, my God.
Protect our ability as servants of the people to speak up for the people that we represent. Make sure that we do not normalize this kind of violence simply because the White House doesn't agree with people who dissent. If this is how a United States senator can be treated, then none of us ultimately are immune. If this is how a United States senator can be treated, none of our constituents are safe. This is a test for the country, but this is a test for the United States Senate as well. I yield the floor.
Like, it's do or die right now, okay? Right now, every Republican is justifying this. I guarantee you that they're not going to apologize. They're going to lie. They're going to say that he attacked her, that they're violent, that he lunged at her, right? There's no way around this. Okay? You need to be as militant as them. Like, seriously, look at this. Look at just the Twitter feed. What do I click on? I click on Padilla. This is the grok topic, okay? Gavin Newsom. If they can handcuff a U.S. senator for asking a question, imagine what they can do to you. Okay, good. Thank you. Moving on. Rep. Eric Swallow. America is dying. Trump's agents just physically attacked the U.S. senator. This is how freedom dies. Okay, good. Thank you. MAGA voice. Breaking. Democrat U.S. Senator Alex Padilla was just thrown on the ground and handcuffed. Democrats are no longer above the law. I voted for this. Yes. Yes, they did. The Indian who runs this account would have voted for Trump for this reason. That is true. You have to acknowledge this, okay? You have to acknowledge this. This isn't just Trump. This isn't, I beg the Republicans to not let this be normalized. They're all like this. Call to activism. Major breaking news. Padilla was just arrested during Kristi Noem's press conference for asking questions. This is officially a fascist country. Okay, a little soy, but okay. Midas Touch, a U.S. senator. This is absolutely insane. Okay. Charlie Kirk. Watch the exact moment Democratic Senator Alex Padilla is brought to the ground and cuffed by officers. Wild. A nothing statement. Here's how he really thinks. Whoa, a sitting U.S. Senator, Alex Padilla, was just shoved and forcibly removed from a press conference with DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Reports are he's been arrested. No one is above the law. It's about time these Democrats stopped acting like it. It's pretty clear how they feel about this, guys. If they, listen, and this is not an exaggeration, it is simply true, and if you disagree, you're wrong. If one of those officers had pulled out their gun and shot Padilla in the back of the head after handcuffing him, the Republicans would be supporting it exactly as much as they are right now. They would defend it. That's not an exaggeration. That's not an overstatement. If you can't recognize where we are, then you have no business commenting on politics. It is absolutely true. And if you think otherwise, I think you're delusional. If it was caught on camera, then nah. I think you're delusional, nuts. If they caught it on camera, I think they would be defending it. Absolutely they would. 100%. They would celebrate it, yeah. They would say he was violently resisting and that if you don't want to get shot in the back of the head, you shouldn't resist arrest. Hakeem Jeffries, The Lincoln Project, Rep Torres, The Lincoln Project again, Brooklyn Dad, John Favreau. Okay, I guess I've blocked a lot of members of the Trump administration, so I might be missing a few responses here. Overwhelmingly, though, the people drawing attention to this event are going to be Democrats. They need to take as much advantage of it as possible. If they don't defend it, the whole thing falls apart. Yep, yeah. That's what you have to understand about the state of hysteria that the Republican Party is in, you know? If they ever stop celebrating the violence, they lose. They need to build and build and build. The people who are orchestrating these events, people like Kristi Noem, people like Stephen Miller, they aren't just reacting to every event of the day. They have an end goal in mind. And it's an end goal where you and I are dead. Okay? They know the way you build from A to B is by constantly, aggressively expanding what the definition of acceptable is. This would have gotten condemnation from Republican members of the House and Senate back in 2017. In 2017, many of them would have jumped to the podium in the interest of bipartisanship to express their sympathies and say this was unjustified and won't happen again. Now they won't. And now they're stronger for it. They have been made stronger. This will not affect them. It will not affect their votes, not without real pushback. Every time the Democrats step back an inch, Republicans step forward too. Every time you give them ground, they take ground. They will never, ever, 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 ever apologize. Why would they? They want this. Why would they apologize? The only reason they would apologize would be if it was beneficial for them to do so, and it's not. It would be an ideological and strategic mistake for them to apologize. Why would they do that? Why would Hitler have apologized during any of the millions of little oversteps his agents did while slowly eroding Weimar's democracy and then very quickly eroding it? Why? At what point would it have been beneficial for him to apologize, either in an ideological sense or in a strategic sense? When? Ridiculous. Simone Biles apologizing to Riley Gaines and they jumped all over that. Oh yeah, fuck. That was one of the things I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Republicans are looking to censor Padilla. Do you have a link to that? Speaker Mike Johnson just called on the Senate to censure Padilla. Yep. There you go. Of course. Why wouldn't they? They want you to die. I don't understand. Like, people, look, of course. Why wouldn't they do it? For what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't. There's no rule following. People are still confused about the whole "they're going to kill you" thing. Yeah, everything else is a lesser step than that. MAGA will justify this by claiming they're traitors. They already have. That already happened. MAGA rhetoric for years now has essentially morally justified infinite violence against their opposition. Like, to them, you are already a traitor. To Republican voters, any violence taken against Democratic representatives is taking the country back. They were already ready for this. Jesus. Can somebody get me a C-SPAN feed? Here, I found it on Forbes Breaking.
Did federal agents go too far the way they treated Senator Padilla today? Was that a bridge too far?
I saw the same video, a very brief video that I think many people did. I think the senator's actions, my view is it was wildly inappropriate. You don't charge a sitting cabinet secretary.
Charge.
And everybody can draw their own conclusions. You can.
He's smiling because he knows because he's fantasizing about putting the reporter in a death camp. I'm not kidding. Do people think when I speak like this that I've been hyperbolic? I understand I engage in hyperbole sometimes. I try to draw a line so people understand what my positions are because I don't want to, like, obscure what I believe. You all know I've been saying this for a long time, right?
It's a heated debate here.
Dude, he's literally grinning.
I'm not going to respond to that. Look, let me just, hold on, wait just a second. I think the American people can draw their own conclusions. They saw a senator acting like wildly inappropriate. I believe.
He's going to say thug.
Yeah, so. What about the way he was treated by what I saw was agents asking him to quieten down so that the secretary could continue her press conference. He refused to do so. What were they supposed to do? They have to restrain someone who is engaging in that kind of behavior. They moved him out of the room.
To the ground, handcuff him.
A sitting member of Congress should not act like that. It is beneath a member of Congress. It is beneath a U.S. senator. They're supposed to lead by example, and that is not a good example. We have to turn the temperature down in this country and not escalate it. The Democrat Party is on the wrong side. They are defending lawbreakers, and now they are acting like lawbreakers themselves. And I think that's oversight. Charging a cabinet secretary in a press conference, I beg to differ. I think that people do as well. I think those actions speak for themselves.
See, is the only reason there was a delay in his response was because he needed a little bit of time to decide how he was going to spin tackling a senator and handcuffing him to the ground for asking Secretary Noem a question to this Democratic senator was an aggressor, was a violent thug, and is acting beneath the office. Everyone has access to the video that shows he did nothing wrong. It doesn't matter.
What would you say about lowering the temperature in the country right now? What would you say?
You know, Scott, I have things to say about lowering the temperature all the time. I am very consistent in this. We have been trying to do this since I was handed the gavel in before. I founded the Honor and Civility Caucus in the Congress, for crying out loud, when I got here in 2017. I think that we should act according to our offices. We have a duty and a responsibility to...
I can imagine him saying the exact same shit after Padilla got shot, hypothetically. Oh, for sure. Oh, 100%. If Padilla got shot, absolutely. Yeah, he would say the exact same thing. There'd be no difference. Padilla charged Secretary Noem. Obviously, we have agents that are trained to defend members of the president's cabinet, no matter what. It's disgusting that Padilla would act that way. And honestly, like, nobody should be surprised if you violently charge a member of the cabinet that you would be treated as a threat to them. Yeah, no, easily. He would smile while saying it.
To set a tone, an example in our actions. And I encourage every member of this body to do it in the House and Senate. We have.
This dude is an actual comic book villain? No. Listen. He's just a fascist. This is what they're like. The entire political party that runs the government is like this. They're not. He is good at his job, to be clear, but this ideology is. There are millions of people in this country who are watching this and nodding along to it.
To turn the temperature down. We need to be on the side of the rule of law. We need to be on the side of law and order. We need to be on the side of calm and not chaos. And when members go into these settings and act this way, that when they push law enforcement agents around, when they storm cabinet secretaries in a press conference, I think it is wildly inappropriate behavior, and I think it sets a terrible message and tone for the rest of the country.
Will there be an investigation? Will there be a House investigation?
This is a Senate side issue, but I certainly hope that behavior is not repeated over here. We already
constitutional officer for this branch.
I am.
This
Yes.
affects all members, whether they be in the House or Senate. You're the Speaker of the House.
Yes.
The constitutional officer of this branch.
Yeah, and what of it? I mean,
the idea that you said this is a Senate issue. This isn't. I mean, these are members of Congress.
I mean, yeah, but the Senate does its disciplinary actions over there, and we do ours over here. We have a certain set of measures, as you all know, and it ranges from censure to removal from committees to ultimately expulsion from the body.
And do you support that for the senator?
It's not my decision to make. I'm not in that chamber, but I do think that it merits immediate attention by their colleagues over there, and that they need. I think that behavior at a minimum is it rises to the level of a censure. I think there needs to be a message sent by the body as a whole.
Yep.
That is not what we are going to do. That's not how we're going to act. We're not going to have branches fighting physically and having senators charging cabinet secretaries.
And see, he smiles again. As soon as he does this, he smiles again. He does have a clear tell. Not that it matters. We're not playing poker, right? If we were playing poker, it would matter. But yeah, he's got a very clear tell when he concocts like an evil lie to tell, you know?
Physically and having senators charging cabinet secretaries. We got to do better, and I hope that we will. But I want to say this is a good day for the House chamber. The first rescissions package is now passed through the House. I expect it will pass through the Senate. I expect our one big beautiful bill will continue to be processed as it is, and that we'll get it back and get it done on a tight schedule. I'm still trying to meet our July 4th deadline so we can have a celebration on Independence Day. And having good legislation passed will put everybody in a better mood. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you.
Why can't he say he'll look into what happened and come back with his opinions? Why would he do that? Trump would have been sent to Gitmo if he refused to leave a Biden press conference. The fantasy world these people live in. But what does censoring do? Bonk on the head. Yeah, so it's pretty bad. Ain't good. That's true. That's true.
a great conversation, sat down, talked for 10, 15 minutes about operations in LA, some activities of the Department of Homeland Security. And so I thought it was very productive. And I wish that he would have reached out and identified himself and let us know who he was and that he wanted to talk. His approach.
He did, of course. Padilla might not give as aggressive a response here because she hasn't had time to communicate with any of her party officials after ending the press conference. Like, Mike Johnson had an hour or so, or an hour and a half to like, no, I'm sorry. Mike Johnson had like an hour and a half to kind of like build up the narrative, you know what I mean? So he could decide what tone he was going to take, but she hasn't had that time when she speaks here.
You know, was something that I don't think was appropriate at all. But the conversation was great, and we're going to continue to communicate. We exchanged phone numbers, and we're going to continue to talk on ways we can communicate better.
Why did you detain him? Why was that the action you decided to take?
I'll let the law enforcement speak to how this situation was handled. But I will say,
if this interaction took place 1 hour after, she probably would have said that he lunged at her and that he's happy, or she's happy that her guards were capable of quickly like detaining and neutralizing the threat, and how disgusting it is that a senator would act that way. Yeah, she feared for her life. Exactly. Like, what did Padilla actually do that warranted the arrest? Nothing. Nothing. They can do whatever they want. Sometimes I wonder how you people would act like incredulous when they started rounding up the Jews, you know? Like, what did they actually do? Well, like, you know, right? You know what they're doing. So basically baseless rumors? No, you're still not getting it. They want you dead, man. They don't need reasons to do this. The end goal is the only thing that matters. The end goal is the advance of their power. Showing that you can tackle a senator and handcuff them for no reason and then lie about it and force them to apologize afterwards and get a Senate censure, that's power. Power is the ability to make people do things they don't want to do. If they wanted to do it anyway, it wouldn't matter. The more the Republicans can make you suffer and get away with it, the more powerful they are. And they can make you suffer. They are very, very powerful. It's not a very good day for me to have to go, but unfortunately I have to go. I'll try my best to continue giving my editors segments to release, but unfortunately I do have some long scheduled travel I need to do. When the travel was scheduled, I didn't know that 50 billion things would be happening this weekend. I won't be able to go live at any point during this weekend, at least I don't think so, but I will try to record stuff. If I have to, I'll record it on a phone and just upload it directly via my phone. So anything that comes out after probably today will be hasty travel recordings. Bush going on a trip. We're getting drafted to Iran, dog. Hey, listen, okay? At least I won't be by the base. Protest live then? No, I'm doing something. Like, I have a pre-existing. Why is YouTube chat obsessed with talking about Kristi Noem's appearance, Jesus? Okay, I don't think people should be weird about women whenever they see women on screen, but it is insane how all of the MAGA women look like freak Barbie plastic surgery experiments. Like, it is kind of crazy. Like, it's like, look, getting work done, whatever, you know, but there is like a very consistent aesthetic here. And, you know, I don't think it's necessarily bad to take note of it. I don't know. It's like they were made in a lab. Yeah, it's pretty weird. To everyone who donated, I will read it the next time that I stream, which is going to be a little bit, but not too long. I expect to be back on Monday. I love you guys very much. I'm not joking, by the way, when I say, like, this is a really scary weekend. Honestly, I kind of question my ability to enjoy you streaming tomorrow. Pay attention. I kind of question my ability to enjoy my brief break from my work, given how much is going to be going on. Like, every time I look at my phone, It's going to be like all the feeds that I have with the pop-ups. It's going to be like, you know, hey, did you know the country's ending? And I'm like, no, I know that. Yeah, I did know that. Thank you, though. Yeah. In the meantime, watch your other favorite leftist streamers cover things, and for the love of God, please don't just be here in live stream chats or whatever. Go be aggressive online, okay? Go talk about the absurdity of Padilla's arrest. Go say Mike Johnson is Hitler, so on and so forth, you know? Make people mad, okay? And a lot of you are going to be protesting, of course, on the 14th. You know, we've got the military parade. There's so much going on. So everyone take care, stay safe, and engage in good protest tactics. The most important of which, of course, is wear a mask. And the second most important of which is bring a water bottle. Because you might get thirsty, you know? It's very easy to get thirsty, you know? It's the summer. Seriously, a significant portion of protesting injuries are people getting heat stroke while out. I mean, you don't want that, you know? You don't want that. That and cops? Yeah, I mean, cops too, but it's still spring? I guess it is still spring. Well, it's hot either way, you know, depending on where you are. All right. Take care, folks. I'm sorry. Good luck.